Welcome to episode 25 of It's Server Time. We're a quarter of the way to 100, guys. It's been a long journey, but we are adding yet another special guest to get us there. To 100, that is. Dinko is going to be our guest for the day. This guy has been in a duo with Hawka for quite some time. Dinko, you've been kind of like doing other stuff other than Counter-Strike, but we know where your one true love is, surely.
Yeah, I mean, Counter-Strike is always going to be the love of everyone, I think, in esports who started there, right? It's just something different about CS. It feels like just a real sport. I don't know. There's just something magical about Counter-Strike, and it's getting very exciting coming into this year, which is really crazy. I think it went stale a little bit, but this year is going to be very, very exciting.
Cool. As always, for our normal crew, we have myself, Mauisnake. We've got Joshua Mix, and then we've got Dinesh Note, and we've got Pronogo.
just Pronogo, yeah.
Just Pronogo.
You know, it's
full legal name. I think it's Darian, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. It's really funny. Is
I don't know actually any of your.
How long have you been working together, man?
I'm just saying. I don't know anybody's last name.
His name is actually Pronogo Nogo.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, sick.
My middle name is N, so Pro N Ogo. There you go. We're getting.
I'm actually trying to think what any of your last names are. I'm really sorry, guys. Maybe you guys might just want to say your last names. Say your full names.
I'm not. Wait, what? I can't cheat.
This is gonna be shocking, but my last name is Mix.
Okay, if you don't want to dox yourself, it's on your.
I mean, mine's literally on my Twitter. What do you mean?
You can't dox, dude. No doxing.
I'm just surprised you guys didn't get the jean jacket memo.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry about that one. You know,
I thought it was like a boy band thing, but
also
no, not the only ones.
Pronogo, are you using his green screen and are you like putting something there? You should be, right? Like.
Oh, should I? Yeah, okay. I can fiddle with that actually. That's a good idea.
Why not, right?
Hold on.
Right, he's got that.
I can do
it was at that moment that Dinko realized he messed up.
Yeah, he'll be tearing this down in a moment.
Mm-hmm. Why not put the oh shoot, I didn't even put it in the topic list. Why not put the Funspark just logo?
Yeah. I have that somewhere. I don't think it's Funspark. I have Relog.
Surely. Sure, just put Relog Media behind him or something. Your favorite.
Yeah.
Over there. Okay. Let's get into some stuff. Let's get into some things. Okay, the first thing we want to talk about is we want to talk a little trash. And by we, I mean me, and by we, I mean I'm forcing everybody to do this. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the HLTV top 20 and our gripes with the list. So I'm gonna go to somebody else first. I got mine. Don't worry. But we're gonna go to the guest. We're gonna go to Dinko. Dinko, what's something you don't like about how this list ended up?
NiKo being in third. Kind of would have liked him to be in second place.
That's why I invited this guy on the show.
Yeah. I mean, NiKo was just, he's such a different beast. He's a unique property in CSGO where he's one of these prodigy players, but doesn't AWP, right? It's just something that's so different about him. And, when we look at the list and you look at the players up here, you got to really take into consideration what LAN is. And I think the conversation we had this year was the fact that, we kind of even removing studio LAN from that equation and starting to only consider big LANs as the ones that have crowds, because it really is what makes a difference. And we look at the major, obviously it was the first one back. So you have so much pressure on the major. You have all the fans first time back in the arena. Most of the players, a lot of the younger players never even seen fans in the arena. So there's so much pressure on that. And NiKo carries a team of a pretty average team. I mean, G2 shouldn't be a team competing for the top 2 spots at majors all the time. You just look at the roster across the board. The fact he's doing that as a rifler is just incredible. And I actually want to shout out Hawka as well. He did that video where he talked about the best major MVPs of all time, and he did the numbers, crunched the numbers, and NiKo was on par to, possibly be the greatest MVP at a major of all time with a rifle. So to me, that's just incredible. And I think you've got to weight what really is true competition a little heavier than some of the other events. Vitality had a little run towards the end of the year, but for me, and NiKo doing it with the rifle, carrying G2 to relevancy, and just that impact a player that's able to deliver. I think NiKo surely should have had the second spot there. He was the closest to Simple all year, even though we always force the same narrative of ZywOo versus Simple all the time when it's super boring watching Vitality versus NaVi most of the time. So yeah, I think NiKo is probably the number 2 player, and that's something I have a little gripe with.
Love it. Really good take overall. Does anybody? Okay, so Who else? Who else? No. You were okay. You're on the side of HLTV with this one, I would
No
assume.
bias.
So,
It's a perfect ranking. There's zero issues. Each player got the exact spot that they should have been in, and this is the definitive ranking overall. And yeah, you guys, this is gospel, by the way. So no disagreeing with it. Actually, you're just wrong, Dinko. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? True. We only have one media outlet. Absolutely no bias there. And I have to say, I was taking a little look at some of the articles, and it seems pretty familiar. So I feel like there might just slightly be a little bit of bias here.
This guy, okay. In case for some reason though this is going over people's head, obviously Note is a writer for HLTV, senior staff writer. So like let that be known. Let that be known. There needs to be a disclaimer here.
Senior as well. So he has. If you really have a lot of issues, that word senior really puts him up the level. You can blame him for this.
He gets the senior discount at Denny's.
You calling me old or what? He comes on the show and just immediately starts shitting on me, I guess. Cool.
No, Dinko, we've never had a repeat guest before on the show, but Note's already making his case that it's not going to be you to be the first one.
Wait, that's not true. We've had Yakinder twice. That's a lie.
Oh shit, you're right.
Nice try.
Well, he deserved it.
Listen, it wasn't really. Listen, it was like pre-champion of Flashpoint Yakinder and then post-champion of Flashpoint Yakinder.
It was like an extended.
It's a different person.
Yeah,
in many ways, he was different. So.
That's true.
For an actual answer though, I would say that the two ones that I would say were a little bit on the fence for me would be where James fell overall, and also Brokey being in the top 10 or top 20. I mean,
no, did you know that James was going to be top 10 when you were?
I mean, I knew by the time we hit like number 14 or something.
I think it was literally the next day after our episode with Richard that it got pushed to number 10. And we were talking about Richard, how are you going to react if he's number 10? And he's like, I won't have to worry about that. So
yeah, he refused to believe it.
Yeah.
So I knew he was 10 once I think the 13th article got released, because I knew that 8 and 9 was between Yakinder and Bit, since I was writing Bit. But yeah, I was not really a fan of James falling in 10th. I feel like the impact he had overall throughout the year wasn't really warranting that. I feel like somebody like, I don't know, Hunter and F could have been a little higher, but even then, those are the two players I would say are a little bit on the fence for me. Brokey, I don't know. I feel like FaZe just didn't have good enough results for him to end up in 20th overall. So.
Okay. I kind of feel the James angle a little bit. I felt like it's a little high because his numbers are inflated by the fact that he's saving as much as he is, and low deaths really helps your HLTV rating. Mix, who you got? What's your gripe?
I mean, I didn't have too strong of an opinion on most of it. For me, it was just like my personal opinion that I probably would have put Axel above Shiro. I understand why like Shiro was above, he had better stats, but I just felt Axel was like way more important to Gambit's success, especially early in the year. I've been like a pretty big supporter of Axel and how I feel he's like the most important player on Gambit. So that was like the only team that probably stood out to me if I had a real gripe with it.
I just can't believe that Shiro's not top 1. Like, what is the simple guy, dude? Come on, online era boys, let's go. Only online games matter. That's what
one in the name, number 1 on the list.
There you go.
Written by a guy.
Written by a Serbian list. There it is again.
Yep, that was the Thorin joke. Yeah. Pronogo, what have you got for the list?
I'm actually curious if people think anybody got cheated of being on the list entirely beyond what we've already said so far. Because I feel like, I don't really. Okay, full disclosure, like I'm probably one of the only people. I'm the most irrelevant person on this panel, and I also care the least about the HLTV top 20 out of everybody on this panel, probably. So I guess that kind of syncs up because I'm like not
irrelevance meets irrelevance.
Exactly. Irrelevance begets irrelevance in many respects. So I just think like that's kind of how I approach this. I mean, I get that. I don't take it as gospel, right? Because there's so many times where it's kind of hard how you conceptualize it. For me, I look at HLTV top ones down the years, and that's not always the most important thing about the list, but it's the one that everybody remembers. And I think that ZywOo getting top one over Simple in some of the years that ZywOo got top one over Simple, it was at least one occasion. It was, I think, an obvious cheat if you look at the games and you pass the eye test. And I haven't really been able to find somebody who can explain to me why they believe it. Like, that you basically have to weigh things differently than I do. And that doesn't mean that the list has no value, but it means to me, I can't jive with the list as much because I'm assuming, and maybe this is a wrong assumption, that the sort of the things that they are testing for are always the same, right? I'm assuming that that's like somewhat consistent across the years. Like, they don't change the qualifications, the things that actually may put your placing on the list too much. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not to say I don't care about the list, because I think it's a really interesting discussion point. It's a nice way to celebrate the individual achievements throughout the years. But for me, the fact that like something as egregious, in my opinion, as the simple snub, that hurts the credibility of the list as I conceptualize it. So I usually just look away from it. However, this time around, I was still kind of surprised NiKo didn't place higher. And I guess that just means that HLTV weighed online competitions higher than I would have. But that's just, again, that's like a difference in opinion.
Wait, as in you think NiKo should have placed first or second?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I put him. I put NiKo as second of the year.
I mean, I think ZywOo's performance overall throughout the year was better than NiKo's in the end, especially when you consider the first 3 to 4 months of the year, for sure.
So, well, okay, this is an interesting topic of conversation we might be able to go down depending on our time. I kind of think that the fact that the major had like okay, overall the team complexion of the major was really weak, by which I mean many teams that made it to top 8 I don't think would have made it to top 8 of previous majors. That might sound like a weird sentiment to make, but like, consider how competitive some of the past majors have been. This major, the PGL major, felt like Vitality making it to top 8 was a fluke, and it felt like Heroic making it to top 8 was a bit weird. They made it to top 4, so that's like even more of a weird one. Furia making it to top 8 was definitely a fluke, and it would have been a fluke if Entropic had made it. Like, I would still think of it like a fluke, even if it wasn't really a fluke. So I'm kind of weighing it that way, right? It feels like the top 8 at the major was weak in very key aspects, and that makes me feel like basically ZywOo would have not made it to playoffs in this major if any of the teams had been a little bit stronger. It's really just like if Apex doesn't 1v5 once, and that really kind of kills his credibility for me at that the most important LAN of 2021. Whereas NiKo obviously was God mode, and then he continued his God mode form throughout all of LANs, right? So I just weigh LANs way higher. And to me, I would sooner jettison all of online than anything. I know that's not really fair to Gambit, but whatever. So
okay. Yeah, I feel like there's this thing with ZywOo where like he's so fucking unbelievably good, especially like in 2019 and 2020. So where he comes in and he underperforms like even just like a little bit below expectations, but it's still like insanely fucking good. But like people have this like notion that he's like playing way worse than he actually is, because that's just like the level that people expect from him. So obviously when he underperforms even a little bit, it's like I still think overall I can understand, because NiKo was just popping off in the last part of the year and like at all the important events, but I still don't like want to just discount like the entire rest of the year and just how good ZywOo is just consistently throughout an entire year through each event.
I think last year was just a year of too many caveats, right? You look at how weak the top 10 was for most of the year. It was awful. We had so many online events. I think pretty much every team, apart from NaVi, just had a clear weakness in the team. You know, you look at Vitality, they were playing with Kyoji most of the year. Masuto was only really starting to get good at times and then would just disappear at certain points of the competition as well. So I think you look at every team, and even G2, for example, you know, you're playing with Amanek, who's more of a supportive AWPer, not really even a role player in that AWP role. Every team really just had one or two holes in the teams. And that's what made last year just really hard to watch at times, is just watching the two teams that stuck together for a long time and didn't really have too many clear problems was NaVi and Gambit. And for me, those were the two best teams last year for the whole year, obviously. So I think it's just so many weaknesses across all of the teams last year that really opens up a lot of question marks and a lot of issues. You know, ZywOo's team, look at it across the board, isn't fantastic, and he still made them incredibly relevant at times. So yeah, I think both of the top players, or all of them, really just had to make up for a lot of mistakes and a lot of holes inside of their own rosters. So yeah. I think for both NiKo and ZywOo, it's been a very impressive year, but I think LAN is probably the difference for me that really puts him above ZywOo for the year.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment pretty much like I'll say this. There's a couple things. I have a few things. I have a few gripes with it beyond just NiKo ZywOo, where I would say that the important games NiKo did perform stronger for me is that I think that one thing I actually kind of I was thinking about recently with the list is that the list doesn't really doesn't take into account roles. And I think that's like a kind of big flaw with just making a top 20 list. Whereas when I think of other sports, for example, usually lists are like all team NBA, for example. You kind of have to pick people based off of like their role, like backcourt, front court, or for example, like you like in the NFL, it wouldn't you wouldn't just pick the top 20 people because on a list because they're all going to be quarterbacks. Like that's just the most relevant position.
Like the MVP is literally just the best quarterback award.
yeah, exactly. So I kind of so the thing for me is that the role that NiKo plays is so much harder. And yes, he did op. Yeah, he did op, and he didn't do that well on it. So I think that can be counted against him. But I think that his role in general for what he does on the T side is so hard compared to even I think sometimes what Simple has to do, because NiKo is just using rifle work on rounds to try to find openings on T side, like, and he does it very fucking well. Like that's what's so insane to me about NiKo compared to ZywOo, compared to Simple, where Simple and ZywOo actually get to bait on T side, and NiKo entries a lot. Like on defaults, he'll entry a lot. He doesn't first and run on an execute, but the fact that he's looking for it in the default and finds it as frequently as he does is a skill that I don't think anybody else in the world has. Flat out, I think he's actually the best in the world at finding rifle entries on defaults. There's nobody better. So I think that
still kind of like plays into your roles, kind of like it's like what you were saying about roles, because NiKo can do that pretty consistently because he's like lurking on like a side of the map. So wherever he is, he pretty much has complete control over like what he wants to do, how he wants to play it, what he thinks like the other team's doing, and like how he can like react to that. Whereas like ZywOo is like obviously the opper, so he's working within a pack and he has to work within his other two teammates and whatever the general goal is for like map control or whatever.
Yeah.
Funny enough though, like NiKo's T-side rating in the first like 8 months of the year almost was not great. That was part of what actually dragged his overall rating down. So when I was actually looking at the stats for the year through the spreadsheet that we have, he had, even in the first 6-7 months of the year, he had something like a 1.36 CT side rating in most events. Like generally very, very high impact on CT side as well. And then his T sides were dragged down to like 0.9, 1.0, 1.06, and that was pretty consistent throughout the first 6 to 7 months of the year. And then when you hit, especially once we hit LAN at the end of the year, he like both stats evened out, which is what like that's also part of why he looked so insane at the end of the year, because he actually brought that level up towards the end of the year. Not that he didn't have impact on the T side at all, but like the fact being that overall throughout the year, ZywOo's impact early on was still higher than NiKo's regardless in the end. NiKo, like, I think the points you're making are still valid in terms of his overall impact on the server. It's just that when you're accounting for him being like over ZywOo, I don't think that really has merit this year specifically.
I would say that I do value what he did at the major so much more than everything else. That's kind of why, because I just said it for Hawka's video that I feel like the reason 2020 Simple was better than 2020 ZywOo for me was just simply that Katowice, the one big event, is where Simple just dominated and ZywOo didn't do that well. So I think like I do have a more narrow lens or narrow scope on this because I don't frankly like care that much what happened in like IEM Summer or whatever the fuck these kind of events are.
See,
that
but,
were
like,
just online.
like,
Like they
I
just
get that
mean
point, but
so much less to me.
I still think it's like almost unfair to like completely discount like the entire online thing, because it's just there's also just like a natural like up and down a trend of teams, and it's like so towards the end of the year, I don't think like NiKo's playing better than ZywOo just because it's on LAN. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of other factors that go into that have nothing to do with it being on LAN. Like obviously ZywOo has no fucking problem just fucking fragging out kids on LAN and just on stages, whatever. So I don't know. I guess I just don't value that as much at this point as maybe other people do.
I think if the whole year had been
one event.
if the whole year had been online, then I would have a much easier time agreeing with ZywOo over NiKo, right? Because like just obviously then you can't test for something else, you can't see something else. But
I think if the whole year was on LAN as well, that ZywOo would like quite easily be over NiKo still.
Okay, well, I mean that's a separate conversation we could have. I'm not sure that that's true.
It's kind of
just because,
speculative, and I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if the whole year's on LAN, a lot of other things go differently. Like people make roster moves instantaneously, and Gambit fall off. And
I mean, it is
comes back to
speculative,
the
but you can't
role
discount the first 6 months of the year at all. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Like
I
I
just
talked
think there's some
about
LAN
a
events.
whole year, right? That comes back to Maui's role point as well. It's like AWPers surely across more matches, across more tournaments on average are going to do better than riflers, I guess. It's just like you get more opportunities to have that level of impact if you're an AWPer as well. So, I mean, the fact that NiKo was able to do it in a small amount of events, obviously, we need to see more events to see how he's able to be consistent with the rifle in that role. But in the events that happened last year that were important, he did pop off. But maybe across the year, ZywOo does better if it's all LAMP, just because, AWPers should do better on average across the year and be able to have that more impact. But in the events that did happen, NiKo popped off with a rifle.
I want to bring up one point about how much the whole year matters, and how I feel like that's kind of also selective in Peter's list. Is that why is Bit number 9 then? Why is Bit even in the top 10 if he didn't play for a quarter of the year? Why? And he didn't do that well in that quarter of the year that he played. So why does Bit get a pass in this thing? And it's like, it's almost like the Bit logic here would be like, that graph that he made for why ZywOo is better than NiKo. If you made that graph for Bit, why he would get beat by so many people because of that first quarter just didn't do that well. So that's another gripe I have separately with the list. It's not even relevant necessarily the NiKo ZywOo contest here. It's just that I don't think Bit should be that high. If this is supposed to be if we're using the same train of logic that it's for the whole year, then Bit should never be in the top 10 for me. Like people that in sports that miss a third of a season, they don't get considered for all NBA kind of rewards, or they don't get considered for MVP conversation. They don't get considered for almost anything. So I think that missing those 3-4 months for Bit essentially, or just not playing, is like, how is that not more of an indictment on his ability to, or his case to make it to top 10?
So one thing I feel like a lot of people are missing with this though is that the LAN events at the end of the year were still weighted more than online. It doesn't matter. Like the whole fact is the only event that was equal online to the LAN events at the end of the year was Katowice at the start of the year. Because there's 6 elite tier events. So there's big events and then there's elite tier events. In the elite tier, there's only 6 events throughout the year, and that was Katowice, then Cologne, Blast, Fall and Global Finals, Winter, and what am I missing? The Major, obviously. So that, regardless, those 5 events at the end of the year still had more impact overall. So when you have a player like Bit performing to that level across those events, even with not playing the first 3 months of the year, that overall impact was so immense that it put him high enough to make it to the top 10. That's the thing. Like his overall level of play, if he'd been playing for the entire year, he would have been even higher at that point. The fact is that because he missed out on the first 3 months of the year, that's a big portion of why he didn't make it that further up the list as well. So I think saying that he wasn't performing well enough or to deserve his spot at number 9 is a little bit short-sighted almost.
I think it's just more like the lack of consistency there would probably just make him, for me, a few slots lower. Whereas somebody NAF was just delivering the entire year, it seems like it's just like he came out of nowhere. And yeah, he had a huge impact in the events that he did play. Once he hit his stride in the last half of the year, it was NaVi was unstoppable, and Bit was a huge reason why. I'm not going to discredit that at all. It's just that it just almost is two conflating ways to put a list together, where it's so the first quarter matters so much for the ZywOo over NiKo argument, but then it doesn't matter at all for Bit to be 9th. It just seems like the waiting for that to me never really balanced out. Where I do get the fact that you're saying that he did so well in these last few events that it got him to 9th, but it's But if you do nothing for 4 months, like that, doesn't that hurt you at all? Like, I mean, a little bit more.
But Ziwu was also like a better player. Like he was number 2 in like 3 events at the end of the year too. So it's not just the first part of the year that weighed him over NiKo. It's the fact that it's the two combined. He was better than NiKo at the start of the year, and he was still playing to that level at the end of the year. So it's not like he just dropped off a cliff or something by the end of the year. It's the fact that he had that consistency throughout. And even so, like if you look at the stats from that were even posted in the article, like his rating in big matches was still higher than NiKo's by the end of the year, regardless. So like the impact he's having deep into tournaments is still higher.
The big matches thing was counting a lot of online games though. Like I know what it was. I just like I didn't. That's the thing. That's why I posted the LAN stat on Twitter, because then he came back and he like doubled the amount of matches played, and it's like, okay, so half of those are from big matches which are online, and it's like, okay, that's to me why it's like I didn't really even feel like engaging once he posted that stat, because I'm like, I don't even know what matches those are. Like that just could be
they're matches in the latter half of tournaments, so usually past the group stage / playoffs. So which like are the bracket stage of tournaments, or the like latter half of a tournament, basically.
But then if you're like if you do badly in the beginning, then it's like you never get a chance to play big match. I don't know
that's part of the point, right?
Yeah, but like
then you're testing for team success in addition to individual success, right? I think that's probably the critical flaw with only scaling or scanning for big event matches. Because if your team lets you down the way that ZywOo's let his team down in the opening stages of the major. But say he played well and then his rest of his teammates, Kyojin'd themselves out of playoffs. Well, then he doesn't get any points for that. Now you have to decide what to do.
There's two different stats for that. There's matches against top 5 teams, matches against top 10 teams. Then there's matches in ratings in big events.
I don't think they played best of 3s against top 5 teams in the major until NaVi, right? I mean, they played against. I'm trying to remember who they played against besides Entropic. Anyway, what I'm getting at is more so that like you have to decide what criteria you're testing for. Like you have to actually make a rule. I mean, I'm not saying HLTV doesn't do this, mind you. I'm saying that they have to pick something. And so what they've picked is like, okay, as long as they're upfront about it, which I think they are now, if you read their articles and stuff, like what they're actually testing for. And they do have these graphs and they, show off these stats and stuff. And that's supposed to lead you to some way to reverse engineer how they got to their solution. Can you elaborate whether or not they actually have a set algorithm or say like a formula that turns it into something? Like, basically, if I plug in all the numbers the same way that HLTV gets into their formula, will I still get the same HLTV, or is it influenced by like?
I don't know about that.
Okay, because I was going to say I'm wondering if like is there a deal breaker that's based on for example Peter's personal experience?
It's not like a one sum. It's not a one sum ranking, right? There's so many different stats that get pulled in and overall impact that the players have throughout the year that is used. It's not like one thing will make you like surpass another player. There's so many different factors to it that all combine into the ranking, right? So saying something like, oh, ZywOo had like didn't play this many teams at the major or something, he still played like top 10 teams across the board, top 5 teams in other events. Like the fact is that combined with like the other impact that he had throughout the year and other statistics as well is what puts him above NiKo in the end. Like it's got nothing to do with like one specific thing.
No, yeah,
I was saying it's a combination of all the elements, right?
If you aggregate all of the stats that you guys were testing for, I was just curious if you were aware whether or not they actually do take all of these numbers, put them all into some sort of magic math machine, and then they get out their list.
I don't think it's a magic math machine, but like it's a combination of looking at like watching the matches and also looking at the statistics in the end, right? Because Peter, I know for a fact, watches like every big event, every single
according
match.
to he certainly tweets about all of them, right? So like it does seem like that. It seems like he's very glued to the screen kind of guy. So.
But even then, like you can look at the why this player was that rank in the article, and it breaks down like the specific stats for each of NiKo and ZywOo. So it's like when you're asking about that, it's still displayed publicly. It's just that people don't seem to read it sometimes. So,
that's what I was referencing earlier. It seems like they actually are more like they show you their work in a sense. They also have text reasoning that you can look at too.
We've always done that though.
Yeah. I'm not saying that you guys haven't. I'm clarifying for people who don't look at these lists that if you do look at them, you can reverse engineer. You can theoretically go put yourself into their shoes and then get the same results, or see how they did it anyway. Yeah.
Okay. I think Note did a really good job there of being on, like, actually very fairly being on HLTV's side and actually, like, explaining the process behind the list. And so I appreciate your contributions, Note. I will still live with my I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill that I do think NiKo was better in the year. But I like see more reasoning now because of what you said than I did before. So I actually do appreciate all of that.
Maui, at least you have a hill, because I'm just up in like the Harry Potter cupboard somewhere, like online doesn't matter. I'm like the rat in the cellar.
Have a name, you're just Bernogo.
Yeah, I don't even have a name. It's horrible.
My last gripe with the list is I thought Frozen should have made it. Actually, I think that's my last gripe with it, and I kind of would have. I would have just been. I think I've been pretty public about my distaste for Rops's play. I would have just subbed him in for Rops. I think when Frozen did well, and I'm sure there could be a stat here, and I would love to see one. If there was if Frozen has above a 1.2, I feel like Mouse just almost always wins the map. But if Rops has above a 1.2, I think it has it literally there's no correlation at all if they win the map or not to me anymore. Like, I just see Rops with these 1.3 ratings in games and they lose 16 to 9. I'm like, how the fuck did you even get this? And why was it so not impactful at all? Any Rops stands here? Any Frozen fans here? Anybody?
So my last opinion is that I don't care what level of competition he played. OC was robbed.
Okay, then Elian also to you would have been
no, just OC.
Just OC. Okay,
all right.
Sure,
well, on my list, can we sub OC for
unbiased.
Elian then? Because Elian's my homie, dude.
I'm not biased. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair and based.
Fair and based.
Take out one eye. Take out the eye and biased, and it's based.
I'm just happy we don't have this. Well, hopefully, won't have all the caveats we had last year. We got actual good teams now. They've actually made some roster moves to put the teams together. So, I mean, the star players actually have a team that should be able to win every single one of them. So that's cool. And also, hopefully, less online events. Obviously, for the first quarter, we're expecting more online events. So we're going to have a look at that. But I guess for the most of the year, hopefully we'll be back to LAN and more of a stable schedule, because G2 went to LAN, played really well, went online and lost to Sinners in Pro League and went out last. So it's there's no consistency at all. And it's really hard to figure out a narrative or really follow anything in a year that just constantly changes week in, week out completely. And you go back to LAN, it's the same stories you have to pick up when you were in LAN a year ago, because we went from NaVi G2 in Katowice 2020, first LAN backs Cologne. It's the exact same final. And it's all the online teams pretty much dropped off. So it's I just want a consistent narrative storyline throughout the year with less caveats. Now, hopefully we'll have this argument towards the end of the year again. That'll be really good.
That's right. NiKo kept that LAN from online era to now. That's right. That's fucking right, Dinko. That's why.
Yeah, we just need. This time it's gonna be moot, because obviously NiKo will be top 2, and Zebra won't be. Bye.
Yeah, exactly.
This time next year we're done.
we're gonna keep bringing every point back to this now.
Yeah,
that's just the theme of the podcast now. I'm sorry.
Next year, if NiKo's above Ziu, I'm just gonna do the exact opposite of you guys and argue hardcore about why Ziu should have been higher.
All right, I love it.
Statistic.
Can we do a bet?
I prefer the magic.
Works.
Can we do what are those Lord bets or whatever? What do you want if you win and Ziu is above NiKo again in HLTV top 20 2022? Note.
I mean, I'm not predicting that.
You're not?
I really wanted to bring it back. I would have just hardcore argued for Man2 being above Ziwu.
Oh my god.
Talk about the throw
What
bets.
the fuck is this?
This is season 1 of an 8 season long show, and there's a obscure reference the writers left into the first episode or something that nobody's seen. That's a good one.
I one last thing. Why do we bring up Bit's HLTV or his headshots percentage if that shit doesn't count towards his HLTV rating?
He's fucking sick.
It's cool.
It's cool. It's cool to get headshots. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's why NiKo should be higher, dude. Headshot percentage should matter.
What if it did?
All right.
Slightly.
All right.
Centaurus would be up there, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Eternal fire. Eternal. Okay. Okay. Actually, I didn't write this down in the topic list, but it is. We should bring this up because it's the first tournament of the year, and it was Funspark. Any big takeaways did you guys have from what happened there at the Funspark ULTI 2021, despite being in 2022 finals?
I'm glad to be in the presence of the greatest host of 2022 so far, Maui. That was a fantastic performance, MVP performance at Funspark. You hit the host desk.
I hosted the first event of the year that had an MVP actually.
Bruce.
Amazing.
But hey, I hear those don't count for anything. So
That's true.
I'm also hosting this podcast, so I don't know. Maybe it doesn't count at all.
Maui, I thought the way you held angles on the broadcast was perfect. That's the only thing I saw from the whole event, by the way. Sorry, guys.
Thank you.
Well,
I got online peaked a few times.
Gambit and Tropic final again, exact same final that we had in the V4 festival towards the end of last year. I think Entropic are a team that are going to really improve this year even further. Like they're a team that unfortunately I don't know how much money they've got. I know they're owned by like a poker player from Czech Republic, but they don't have a whole lot of money, so we're not going to see them be a like partner team or anything. So they're always just going to have to play through qualification systems, and they're always really dangerous. You know, Fnatic plays in a lot of those, and there's just a lot of good teams there. But you know, Entropic, every time they get a shot at a pretty good event, they're always sort of going for deep runs now. Even the major now, you know, V4 and now into Funspark ULTI. This team really are impressing me, and I'm glad to see them, like the hard work they do really pay off, because they're even grinding those online cups. I don't even know what they're called, like Home 49 or something at this point. Like they're still playing every single one of those. They're just playing constantly because they have to, because there's nothing else.Ey're not a partner team for Louvre. They're not in Blast.
Dude, I played them fucking twice in a month on Nordivan, and like Elias and advanced playoffs, like just literally.
Why are they even there? Yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
They're just they're grinders.
I remember at the hotel they finished playing a LAN match, and then they had to speed back in the hotel for the shuttle because they had a game against Eternal Fire after 2 best of 3s they played on LAN. Had to get in the shuttle, quickly run to the practice room, and straight away play another game against Eternal Fire. And then they demo reviewed right after in the hotel lobby. So this team are on the grind.
Oh my god! Why are they doing it in the lobby? Are they just doing that for optics? Are they just trying to show everybody?
I don't think there was any Russian speakers around, so they were just chilling, let's sit beside the casters because they'll tell people that we're really working hard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. I'll say a couple. Anybody? Well, actually, first, did anybody else have any stuff they liked or whatever about or saw about the event?
I mean, it was nice to see Complexity play, even though JT was sitting there with like 150 ping or whatever.
Yeah, I think he told me he had 140 actually.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, at least he's in Europe for Blast now, so won't have to deal with
that's
that.
good.
My other takeaway was Norbit losing to a static, and then just going to shit.
Oh,
what a classic!
Oh my god! Okay,
this is the same guy that like got mad when like a team used 5 snipers against his team.
He was literally like, "Do you disgrace your family?" Or I don't even remember what he said. He said something about you're a disgrace. I can't believe.
Let me explain it for people that didn't watch or know what we're talking about. Is that Norbert, player for K23, basically he did accuse Bird from Sky of radar hacking, of cheating. He didn't say how or whatever, but he basically sussed him out. He threw a vote for him to send him out the airlock, but he didn't accuse. Somehow that's different from accusing.
He did an Overwatch case in CS:GO, suspect.
Yes, exactly. So he said it, and Bird from Sky and the whole Ecstatic team, they were getting a lot of negative messages, mostly in chat or like forums or like on the match threads and stuff like that, about how many good reads Bird from Sky was making, which was fair to actually be suspicious, because at one point in the tournament they had something like a 66% T round win percentage. Like it was like, what is like, how are they doing this? So Norbert directly said like, these guys are pretty much cheating, and then Floppy did put out the message like, let's just make sure that HLTV matches have anti-cheat. So I mean, that was kind of like baity, but kind of
I think it was a Floppy bait tweet. I don't know.
The easy explanation.
I think that was a Floppy bait tweet.
I went and like looked at their demo against K23 on like Inferno to see if like I noticed anything suspicious. I was like, I don't know, dude. They're just going banana and just killing them. Like, there's nothing crazy about this. Like,
Right.
I feel like they just have good T side timings as well. So I'm not that surprised that they have good T sides. Because I mean, there's like one round where like they had like they were trying to do like a B split from like CT and from CT and from banana.
Yeah, and they didn't
That's
Bird from Sky have the bomb in spawn or something,
I don't
despawn or something.
No, I don't know if he had it in spawn. I think the banana players had it, but he was like wrapping through his arch smoke, and then so they K23 had like a player holding wrap from CT spawn, and then like as soon as the B players made contact, that wrap player like turned around, and that's when Bird from Sky like took the timing and like backstabbed them, and it was like. And he was probably like, because it was like the instant he turned away from Rap, Bird from Sky comes running in with a Mac 10, and so they were probably like pissed about like shit like that. But like to me, it was just good timing. Like he just timed it well. He went instantly as the B players connected.
Yeah, I tried to tell people,
dude.
Dude, God from Sky is no joke. Okay, he's a legend of Counter-Strike in the making.
I'm telling you,
been in the making for about 20 years.
Young talent.
Yeah.
Are we sure it's not just Hunden?
Yeah, is it actually?
Yeah, Bird from Sky with a bird eye view of the whole map.
Yeah.
You know, like,
the jokes write themselves too. Could you imagine if he found a way to do it? Like if he was actually radar.
he's just making cocktails. Well,
If Bird from Sky touches land, we need to have like serious questions about who this is.
28-year-old
I was
land
gonna say
dodger.
if Alex didn't have more Funspark topics, this would be such a great transition to Eternal Fire, another team who've just accused random people of cheating. Of
Oh
course.
my god. Oh my God.
Actually, I haven't seen that.
Wait, you haven't seen that?
I haven't seen that,
That was I think when the team first formed, like a month or something after they first formed, they were accusing like a couple of players of cheating in online matches.
Yeah,
or something.
Oh my god.
I don't remember the exact example, but yeah, that was definitely a thing. I think it was Xanteras. He recorded his screen with his phone or something of like a Dust
yeah,
2
I
and
remember
Inferno
something
clip.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly who it was, but I just remember that happening. But yeah. Also, never go all in like I did, saying Complexity and Fnatic would win the event because they're the first two knocked out.
Oh yeah, did we said that, right? Like we gave predictions on it, right? Didn't we?
Oh, I tweeted it. I doubled
you tweeted
down.
it.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
you
think we
tweeted
even
it.
covered the event.
And then
Okay, we didn't
JT,
cover
and then I knew JT had visa issues to get there, and then I doubled down. I'm like, nope, still happening.
Still gonna make it.
Jesus.
Still gonna do it.
You're on my shit.
I'll say my general takeaways from the event were just that Astralis are really bad right now. They're really messed up. They're not looking good. Fnatic are kind of like just almost there in a lot of games, but then they just seem to be bad at like closing them. So I feel like Fnatic look like even though they place worse than Astralis, I feel like their future is brighter somehow just by the eye test. Like they would lose rounds that were kind of like, oh, it just looked like you guys didn't communicate this 2v1 very well, you know, like stuff like that, which is fixable. Whereas Astralis is like structural.
Yeah, Astralis results just tell me that like I don't know. I feel like they're just spinning their wheels at the moment. I don't understand. Like I feel like it's just a waste of time to just keep like trying this lineup. You know what I mean? Like I just don't see how it's ever gonna like ever just progress to being an actual good team.
and then Lucky was doing a little bit of Alpine again, and it just feels like, why don't you just cut Lucky and get an Alper? Like there's a Farley's just there right now. Just they would improve the team massively. It's an actual project you can work on. It's something that's good, and better than this at least. I mean, you look at the teams Fnatic lost to, and they're good teams, like good structural teams. You know, Astralis are one of those teams that they lost to, but you know, Astralis losing the K23 Steam Authenticator code and the rest of the guys. So, I mean, it is a rough showing for Astralis, and I think it's getting even worse now. Like a lot of the players, I think Config's got COVID as well. Like this could be a rough start to the year for Astralis.
Config is he just doing stuff? I don't know. Okay, whatever. Either way. Why does he always get injured or sick?
Like, I was gonna say, but like,
we need to wrap this guy in bubble wrap and just
put him in a bubble.
Farley doesn't even have to be like a long-term solution, but like it would still like instantly improve them just by way of like making their roles like 10 times better and having an opera that isn't terrible. Yeah.
See, I don't actually even think. I mean, I don't think Lucky actually is a problem right now. I feel like their issues are kind of run deeper than that. That on their T sides, I feel like Blame F, Lucky. Well, I guess Lucky is a problem in this sense. It's like Blame F, Lucky, and Zipnix all want to be these late round players, and you know, it's just so obvious who's on the bench. So obvious who's on the bench right now that could just be a more early round player. And I don't know why, why with Zipnix playing this badly at every tournament, why not just try Bubsky for a bit? Like, if you're already doing this lucky stuff, just put in Bubsky too, and just see like, okay, let's just run with a young lineup for a little bit and see what Glaive can do with it. Because Glaive is freaking good still. Like Glaive is, I actually was trying to talk. I was talking to Kassad about this in the green room a lot. I was like, bro, do you think Glaive, if he weren't IGLing, he could be top 20 some years? And maybe his mechanics are a little behind people there, but in terms of game sense, he's like best in the world.
Yeah,
still.
positioning
He's
is
so
great.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he was shooting people through all those smokes and stuff, and it was like nobody could do it like Glaive, and nobody really has since then. Before
it's
then,
almost
we had
like a
Flush
bug
Up,
got fixed, Mau. Yeah, it's crazy.
No, he still does it sometimes though. He'll still do it. He'll still shoot people.
It is, well, he probably trained up his game sense a bit based on timings and stuff, which is fair, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Valve puts the bug in the game, you might as well do it, right?
Yeah, as bad as he's played, I will still be of the opinion that you would have to be fucking insane to drop Zipnix before you drop Lucky.
Yeah, just based on the veterans he says.
Yeah.
See, okay, here's the thing about this team is that Lucky, I don't even know why Lucky wants to play late round. I don't know if that's something that like he was just more comfortable on and tricked, but I don't imagine it was because, you know, like, I don't know. The whole thing for me smells because Lucky wasn't opping for a while and now he is opping, but they aren't really seeing an uptick in results. And I just don't understand. Like, I get maybe they're really trying to lay in on the idea that, oh, well, you're trying to replace Device. There's no way you could do that in your rookie stint at tier 1. So let's ease you into the role. But then they wouldn't like take the op away from him sometimes and then give it back to him. You know what I mean? Like there would be other things that would be true that aren't true if that premise was true. And that's a lot of truths. So I just think that it makes sense to say, okay, Lucky, you know, maybe you aren't actually the entire source of our problems, but you are certainly a problem and we have a solution.
You are a problem.
Yeah. So but I'm going to recklessly speculate that maybe the reason why Bubsky hasn't already stepped in is because he said no, because all of the times Astralis said no to him. Maybe it's his turn to fuck him. You never know. Like it could be a thing. Recklessly speculating, of course.
He's not a Counter-Strike player anymore. You have to play Counter-Strike to be a Counter-Strike player.
That is
He's
true.
just Astralis' meme king on the bench.
In
He's a
fact,
decoration.
Pornogo leaking that Bubsky said no to Astralis.
Yeah. My insider contacts rivaled only by the likes of Rush B Media.
Yeah, is that where Bubsky is in your Harry Potter cupboard up on top of the hill?
Yeah.
Is that where you're getting all this info?
That could make sense too. He's Dobby. Master has given Bubsky a spot on Nuke.
That's why he puts his feet on the desk. He's proud of his socks.
Yes. Okay, that's good. That's a good one. I like that. One more thing. I guess I'll just say like for Big, I set my prediction before the event was that Big was gonna come top 3. I thought this Faven move's great. I still believe that. I think it's gonna take him some time to be really good with this lineup, but I mean top 3 over, you know, other teams that I don't think many. I think actually the bet maker odds and like a lot of people thought Fnatic was gonna beat Big, and then that didn't happen, and then Big beat K23, which wasn't that surprising, admittedly, but. Like Big could have came in second place in this event, but they choked to Entropic. I forgot what the lead that they had was. Something like, I want to say something like 14-9 or something. So this was a great coming out for the new Big lineup in my eyes. That Surson is freaking good. Like Surson can just take over games again. Tabson is probably the best fragging in game leader right now. I don't know. I mean, in the top 12 or so, like are there really any that can contest with him?
Glaive, like you were mentioning.
I think Tabson's better.
No, but he certainly is. But you know, he can contest with him at least. But
okay, yeah.
Also, Alex, they choked at 13-4.
13-4. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. It was ugly, right?
I had to look it up. I was like, no, that doesn't sound
it was
right.
even worse. It was even worse. Yeah.
I think you're forgetting the best fragging IGL in the world, JT.
Okay, so JT. Okay, we're moving off this. Okay, we're gonna just do something else now. Okay. I am excited to see what Complexity can do in the future. I'll say that, but I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's get into the Blast Group's preview here. So I want to start by just kind of talking about this format change. Let me see. My computer is Note, can you want to go over the format change? I'm my opening a new tab fries my laptop.
It's kind of weird, but essentially they had teams seed each other into 3 groups. And as essentially, and it's all BO1s in the first stage, and the team that so the team that basically wins the upper bracket goes into the third round of the playoffs or whatever, or not playoffs, but like the
like a
second stage,
kind of a second stage gauntlet of bracket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the team that places second from the group goes into the second stage of the bracket or the gauntlet, and then the other two teams get seeded into the first part of the gauntlet, and it sort of swaps the teams that you play in the next group. So you're no longer playing exclusively against the teams in your group. Personally, I hate this format. I think the old format was
confusing.
It's confusing to like the general viewer, I think.
Yeah.
B, I think the old format was just better, and much clearer both for results, but also just for general results. The one benefit to this is that you get to see teams and like groups play against each other in the second gauntlet stage, which is kind of nice, I guess. But even then, I don't think it really makes sense, because essentially losing all of your matches in the first in the initial stage does basically nothing other than you have to play an extra match.
Yeah, I really hate when group stages have like no consequences in terms of losing them. I've been seeing that a little bit more just to get more games out there, and I feel like that's just kind of like, why aren't you punishing teams for not coming into this game or into the tournament like competitive?
I just think anytime you have to sit here and explain for solid 10 seconds at least of what the format is, or longer than 10 seconds, let's be real. It's too much, man. It's too much. It went over my head. Can you explain it again?
Yeah,
Can you repeat that?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not serious about re-explaining. I'm just saying, like, it's the average person is not going to understand what's happening. You know what I mean?
I think this is going to result in two things, weirdly. Like, one, the biggest thing is that the broadcast day is now going to be long as F, dude. The broadcast day is going to be crazy long. And I know that's something I think of fast because, like, if I'm working that broadcast, like, I'm just like, bro, this is like, why are we working a 12-hour day? Because I consistently watch the entire day of Blast. Like, I'll watch all of on YouTube. I'll like skip through it a little bit here and there, but I'm watching almost every single segment and I watch every single game. And now I don't know if I'm going to do that because 12 hours of Counter-Strike in a day is insane. Like,
and they're BO1s.
And yeah, so I guess I'll just skip a lot or something.
Yeah, the thing is with Blast, they just had such a good system last year, and the year before. It's just like, it makes a lot of sense how it pans out. Okay, here's the 2 games for today, and it's very easy to plan around that, even as a casual viewer, but also as someone who's keeping track of the entire tournament. Plus, each match it matters. It's very, very simple to like follow. You understand the consequences of this game, but now you've got to actually go and try and figure out, okay, if they lose this game but win this game, it's just a lot more added into it. I think in general, it doesn't actually appeal to a lot of casual viewers in a way, which I thought Blast did a fantastic job at, because even like the content, the shoulder content's really good for keeping casual viewers entertained throughout the day. But that's not going to be enough now to keep them here from 3 p.m. till 11 p.m. at night. So no one can do that. So you really will just start to pick and choose. And then your watch time is going to be really bad as well, because you only have a best of one throughout the day, and people tune in and want to watch their team play. It's not going to be very easy to continue the narrative throughout the day. It's just confusing.
Yeah, I like the idea of it, but like I get what it's trying to accomplish, and I appreciate that, but overall I just think it's like a bit confusing. It kind of hurts the overall like connection of like the narrative and the story of everything. It's just a bit weird.
Yep. What do you think it is trying to accomplish exactly, Mix? Like what? Not putting you on blast. I'm just asking. Like what? Because I don't understand what.
I can answer that. If
yeah. Okay. I was just gonna say it's like having 2 stages, like having one stage like people see the BO1s, the groups. That's like one thing. You're playing all these teams, and then you're still getting like more games out of it to see all these like new teams play.
Oh, okay. So you think it's more like they're taking the exhibitionist almost and like trying.
Yeah, I think it gives you like more matchups basically.
Yeah,
different matchups.
It also increases watch hours for one. That's big, and it's also makes it so that teams that are partner teams don't feel like if we lose, like for some reason, this was a thing before. Sometimes like, oh, we just had a really hard group, and so we lost in our hard group, and now you have kind of, because of the swap in the second stage of this whole thing, which I'm just calling it the gauntlet. I don't know the real name. Like the gauntlet part of it, like it's now a point where if you lose that part, now you kind of do deserve to lose because you lost to even another group's lower seeded team too.
To me, this just seems like a poverty version of what Flashpoint was trying to run. Like the
power-
original.
the triple
It
group,
is.
the triple groups, like just reseeding and everybody picking their teams, and yeah, it was a lot.
Flashpoint was
Exactly.
confusing to watch as
Well,
well at the time.
I mean, you say that, but I think the Flashpoint 1 format, if it was actually given more time, was actually
It
pretty
actually
good.
made it statistically like actually worked out very well in almost every iteration possible, where there'd
Yes.
never be a tie because of it. Like that's
And
the special part.
narratively, there was just so much to it because the teams that topped the groups could like pick the next groups and sort of seed teams differently. I really like that aspect of it. So I feel like this just takes that and it's like, what if we made it worse and made all of the matches best of ones? So it's just not as good as that, and there's far less narrative stake to all of the matches. I feel, especially in the first stage for sure. I feel like if I'm gonna watch, it's mostly gonna be the gauntlet matches. If I'm not writing about the match, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I'll say one benefit of this format is that every time a group finished, there was that like basically the most hype match in every most hype matches in every group were two of them. It was the upper bracket final and the lower bracket final, because the upper bracket final would be like the two teams, one of which is gonna like progress to the grand final of the group, and then that meant that they secured a spot for the upcoming Blast finals, like spring or fall finals. And then the lower bracket finals was like one team's eliminated, sent to the showdown, and then the other team progresses to that winner, the finals of the group. And then the finals of the group was pointless. Like it literally made no sense to even play it, because it was like a seeding game essentially. Like, you know, those like NIP versus Big like game that just like both of these teams are already going to the fall finals. Why do we have to see who's seeded number 1 and number 2? Like it made no sense. And when I talk to people at Blast, they're like, oh, some guy like really high up in the scenes just kind of wants there to be a winner, and we don't like that. But they took it out. They took it out. So I'm glad that they took it out, because those games were, in my eyes, just like kind of a show match. You know, you could see teams weren't really giving it their all in those. So I feel like every game kind of more so matters now, but you can still lose everything and not get eliminated.
The other thing about best of ones is everybody thinks it's a great idea how to shorten the day by having best of ones, but I don't think people realize how long best of ones take now. Like it's not like they're very quick matches. In fact, it actually could be longer than a best of 3, because you have, okay, a best of 1 with 2 teams, but the economy and how it is right now, the games last forever. You have the halftime break, but not only that, you then have to switch off the teams to come back on and put 2 whole new rosters on, set them up with their conface, get everybody ready to go. I'm sure Blast will have a system in place for that, but the best of ones aren't going to be as short as you think they're going to be. So these days, you know, as they're scheduled, it looks doable. Like they kind of add up to how 2 best of 3s would go if they went all 3 maps, but it's never actually going to pan out like that. You're going to have way more little details that are going to cause you problems throughout the day. The days are going to be super long and really taxing on the players who have to play in the morning and then the evening. It's not going to be as short as everybody thinks.
I mean, Blast just heard all of the North American fans complaining about how all the NA teams get stuck in the early time slots, and they're like, what if we just made the day 6 hours longer? So that
What
you
if we
guys
just
can
made
watch your
every
team?
time slot like viable for a team to play? Every team's going to play every time slot, essentially.
Also,
Yeah.
to quickly answer Exner's question, Blast groups are online, not studio.
Yes, they are. They are online. Okay, let's actually get into a little bit of the previewing of the groups. Let's actually talk about some Counter-Strike here, and let's talk about who we think are gonna come out on top of these. So, I'm pulling up the groups right now. My internet connection is very slow, as people might be able to recognize. Okay, Group A got. I clicked the wrong thing.
You want me to hit you with them?
No, I got it now.
Okay.
God damn. This is so scuffed, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, Group A, we have G2 versus Complexity, Big, NIP. Let's just try to do like, who do we think is going to come like top, like let's just do it. Who do we think is going to win this? I think G2. I think
G2.
we're going to agree with that. Second place, I'm going to go Big. I'm going to go Big in this one. What do you guys think?
I'm taking Complexity.
Yeah, I'm
Go
going to go
all in
Complexity. I think it's a risk to go with Complexity, but I think, you know, when you have a roster like this, the main thing I want to talk about is Grim. I think he's going to be way better here in Complexity long term than he is in Liquid, because, you know, you really have to consider a young player like him who doesn't really seem to have the strongest of personalities in terms of feeling comfortable. An analogy I would use is like for Formula One, Pierre Gasly was playing the racing for the B team of Red Bull, got a chance to go up to the main team and just flop the bed entirely. So they kicked him out, sent him back, and he then started putting some of his best results ever in the B team. So for me, it's like Grim is one of those guys who's going to perform better not being in Liquid and just being in a more comfortable environment. I think he's going to be able to really excel in this complexity team. I think JT's a leader that's going to be a little bit more accommodating for Grim. You know, going into a team like Liquid, where you have Stewie, you have Elige, and clearly that team wasn't in a great place at the time anyway. Feels like Grim is going to be much more comfortable in this team. We're actually going to get to see some of his performances that we seen prior to him joining Liquid, and that is something I'm really looking forward to see. And I think just that little honeymoon period is probably going to pop for complexity, and I think they, you know, looking at the group, they could certainly come second in this one.
Love it, love it. Yeah. Okay. Mix. Are you gonna jump on the complexity hype train after what Dinko just said?
See, I'm gonna go anti-homer this time.
Wow.
I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna say Big comes second because I
like it. I like your style.
I do think G2 and Big. I think these B1s and I think complexity is still having to get things figured out. These roles are like Grim and Floppy are pretty much playing brand new roles at this point, and I think they're still like getting junior integrated as well. So I think they still have like a lot of work to do. So I think Big will be a bit too much for them in this specific group. But it's a BO1. They have a lot of talent on complexity. They could easily just Grim and Junior pop off, Floppy pops off, and just take one from Big. I mean, I think they could even beat G2. I mean, in these BO1s.
Yeah, the key thing is the key thing is BO1s and G2's debut. Like, there's a lot of question marks about a lot of this stuff. So really, anything can happen. And I mean, I'm not going to predict NIP to get out because that would be ludicrous. There's no way, obviously. Yeah. So we have to pick one of the reasonable teams. But you know, besides that, anything can happen in this group.
I think for complexity, either they start out 16-7. Against G2, or they finish third behind Big and G2.
You think they're going to beat Nip? Do we all think Nip's going to come last in this group?
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You're literally without the one player that makes the team relevant. And the problem for NIP is, you know, the only time they actually started to pop off and people, well, not even pop off, like started to get better was just before the major, and they won that RMR event, IM Fall, that just had so many, you know, logistical issues in terms of the format. Didn't really make a lot of sense. So they win that tournament. But look at NIP. They didn't move anywhere. In fact, they got worse. They deranked, and we've seen all of the other teams around them get better. The only time they were even becoming exciting was in the weakest top 10 at a point where, you know, Vitality was doing nothing, and their roster is about to be removed entirely. NaVi just destroying everybody. NIP were only getting a little bit of hype around them because they're playing in EU-only RMRs, and no one else is good in the RMR. And now they've lost Device. They brought in Essetag. That didn't work just yet, and I don't think, you know, they've got rid of Threat. So where's the leadership in this team? Like, Hampus, I don't really think it's going to be an IGL to look at this year, and I just feel like right now NIP's roster just it actually got worse. Everybody else has got better. They're not really going to do much this year, and it is kind of sad to see. Well, hopefully Device can get better soon, but in terms of like where he is coming back to the team, I don't think it's going to be much better anyway.
Essetag joins and his boy just dips for fucking 6 months.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, like, man, NIP look like they just look like they'll never get anything. I was putting them last without even remembering Device was out, to be completely honest.
There's just nothing.
I didn't expect them to do anything even. Yeah, like I didn't even expect anything. How fucked must you feel as a NIP fan? If you're in a NIP fan in the chat or in the YouTube comments or something, like, tell us how you feel, because I gotta say, this must be really bad. You went from like this Device signing, blockbuster, big moves, oh my god, what's next? And then like combination of online era results being middling plus weak top 10 that Dinko mentioned, basically everything Dinko said. And then obviously they don't even place that well after the fact when the lands return. And then Device dips at the end after they bring in Essetag. And it's like, dude, what? Like, they shuffle the academy players earlier in the year. Like, now they have DJL, new coach. Okay, they're moving Threat out. And the first event he's got is with a scuffed lineup without their star player. Like, hell, there's no consistency with this lineup at all. So even if you wanted to root for the team but didn't care about the results,
they're going to win them.
Yeah, basically, that's the group. That's the end result.
So it's like the change NIP made over the thing is that, like, I mean, Threat's still there. He's just not like the head coach behind the players during the thing. I assume he's like in still all their practice and stuff. That seemed like what he wanted to do. Like, he still just wanted to be involved in like the strat making, all that. And it's like, that's great, fantastic. You change up your coaching staff a bit. But like, event sooner or later they're gonna have to realize that like this rifling core of Hampus, Plopsky, and Rez is just not it, and it's just not ever gonna be it.
Not
and
good enough.
they're gonna need to change out at least like 2 of them for like better riflers that are actually going to like consistently frag at a high level. Because Device is not Ziwu, and he's not simple. He's not gonna just drag this team to fucking top 4s every time, and that's fine. You know, not everyone is gonna be that. Not everyone has to be that, but sooner or later you have to realize that like this core of like Plopsky, Rez, and Hampus is just not enough. And Esatag is fine. I think Esatag's good. He's like the role player. He's like doing his thing. He's like a pretty stable piece to have on a team. I don't think he's the problem at all. I think it's just like this core 3 that like is just not working.
But I mean, there's no Swedish players they can really look to that would improve this lineup anymore at this point. Like, I feel like they just have to go international if they're going to start trying to change out those pieces.
Maybe they need to start bringing in some UK flags. You never know. It might work for Fnatic. Maybe it'll work for them.
Oh, I mean, you guys saw who they're looking at, right? Jaquinho. Jaquinho, yo. Like, why not just use Fuzi full time?
How about Jaquinho? How about that?
Is he not, but I thought he was just going to the academy team.
Yes,
like, he was replacing Fuzi on the academy team, and Fuzi was going to NIP.
He did play for the academy team, and Fuzi's moving up. Actually, think about it like this: Jaquinho was so bad for Fnatic that he didn't actually even get the spot on NIP over Fuzi. Fuzi got it, and then to be Fuzi's replacement, that is Jaquinho's role. That is really sad.
Nice come down.
Why is there any expectation about Jaquinho anyway? The dude just came out of nowhere. Like the only time I'd ever seen Jaquinho play was in UK Premiership, and it's like, why are we putting expectation on this guy anyway? Like there shouldn't be any expectations at all. You just literally found a random Swedish opera, brought him into the team, and I wasn't surprised he didn't play that well, because like he's not even had that gradual. Okay, I'm going to We Play Academy, going to play on LAN and actually learn how to play properly. He just went, okay, now I'm playing in Fnatic at tier 1 events, and you're just going to get all the hit that comes with that. You're not even getting the slow movement, getting ready to go into tier 1. You're just throwing it at the deep end. You don't even know how to swim, and you've just drowned. Like that's literally what's happened to Jaquinho. But I think going to this NIP Academy team is actually going to be a very good thing for him. And I think maybe we can actually see a little bit of something in the future from him, but he's not ready at all right now. And I think he'll even admit that. Even in his twit longer, you can see he just wasn't even mentally ready for what comes with being a tier 1 player.
Yeah, they were really scraping the bottom of the barrel to pick him up there. Let's move on to
Chat's
Group
got
B.
a good idea. Chat's got a good idea, dude. Draken's on the comeback. Just get him.
He's on Savage, and
window.
He's doing okay. I mean, he could go on the academy team for Jaquinho. No, I think he's actually doing okay. I saw his stats. I mean, I didn't watch any of the games.
Can we get? I think Draken should be able to, like, they should enable subbing in players like mid round so that Draken can run up to Fuzi's PC and be like, the enemy's coming from more than a 45-degree angle. I got him. And then it's good.
Just take over the mouse. Take it over.
Yeah, then it'd be good.
Okay. Let's do Group B. We've got opening matches: NaVi versus MiBR. Second match is interesting to me: Astralis versus OG. I just want to ask, who's going to win the Astralis OG match, guys?
I think OG could win it,
yeah,
man. I was thinking about this earlier. I think Astralis should just, Comfy's got COVID. They're just off a really bad event. They're not going to be in a great mindset right now. This is a prime chance for OG, who have zero expectations now. Like I don't think this team is going to make a deep run all year long with how the other rosters have got way better, and they've just brought NiKo in. Like this team doesn't have any expectations anymore. So yeah, they could definitely have enough skill, especially online. I think they could certainly take an upset win here over Astralis.
No. Here's the real question: who wins, Astralis or MiBR?
No. I think it's MiBR or not.
No, it has to be Astralis.
Yeah.
How much do you actually trust Astralis to win that game?
MiBR don't even have cello.
Yeah, they don't even have cello. They're missing a
They're
player.
using an academy player. There's absolutely no way.
Player.
How confident are you? I'm
still very confident, Mix.
No. I think that is a prime online BO1.
Online BO1.
No, there's no chance.
There's
no chance.
There might be
a chance. There's always a chance. You have to understand. There's always a chance. There are far crazier things that have happened.
Like lightning striking someone. Yeah.
Okay, Mix. Who do you think? Who do you think's gonna do it?
Fuck you, alright? MIBR is gonna beat Astralis.
Okay,
I'm
he
gonna
said
look
it here. Clip it
fucking genius.
and make sure to post it everywhere. When
Brazil,
MIBR
listen to me. Brazil, listen to me. MIBR will beat
Brazil,
Astralis.
listen to me.
Oh my
Listen to me,
God.
Brazil. MIBR. I didn't say
Brazil.
what. I just said the name.
Yeah. And
He just
they all
wants
love
the
you.
Brazilian followers. That's literally it. That's the only
Chilling
reason he's
out.
saying it.
And you know what? The Last Dance would also beat Astralis. You heard it here first.
MIBR gonna be like, you know the guy they would throw out into the Colosseum first back in Roman times just to like get destroyed by the champion just to get that bloodlust going in the crowd. That's all MIBR is here for at the moment. I just don't think they're gonna be able to do too much at all. Like they don't even have that same excitement about them. That VSM random roster coming out.
Yeah,
They
that
don't
was
have
crazy,
that
though.
same excitement about them at all. Like there's probably no chance.
I
for
think
them
they're
to do
just
anything.
happy.
MIBR
Yeah, they're just happy to
are
be
like-
here, dude.
They're like the 4th or 5th best team in Brazil at this point.
Yeah,
It's just
they're-
like
It's gonna be bad when Astralis loses to them then.
Last Dance, no joke. This is no troll. The Last Dance might literally be better than this MIBR. Not even without Cello. I almost would put money on this. Like that, the Last Dance is better than them.
Listen, all I'm saying is I played a couple of these players. There's like during like EPL finals like 2.5 years ago when I was with ATK, and they ran the same pop strat on Inferno a lot, and it was pretty good. So if they can just bring that.
They got one
That's-
strat.
they got one
Inferno.
round. They're gonna win one round, is what you're
That
saying.
one strat that we knew was coming and we still couldn't stop. So maybe Astralis 2.5 years later.
next 2.5
seems
years
good.
ago, please.
Mix, we got refrag now, and it's free for everybody. Okay, they're gonna stop that strat right in his tracks.
Okay, listen, you guys are gonna look real dumb when MIBR beats Astralis, and I'm gonna look fucking so
Wait.
smart.
Nix, you realize they're playing against a Blame F who literally would sit there and refrag to find a specific spot to dodge a single flash from Vitality? Like, there's no
Yeah,
way
it's
that
not-
running the same
it's
strats
lose.
working against this team.
Yeah.
That guy watches a
Right.
lot of demos. I heard.
There's probably more likelihood of MIBR rebranding back to Immortals Gaming Club that halfway through the map than them being Astralis. I think
True.
it doesn't make any sense why they're still MIBR. I'm just waiting for
Alright.
that to happen.
Whatever you guys say.
I'll be on the
kind of-
fence.
Okay,
I'll
yeah,
say
go.
50-50, dude. 50-50
Oh
coin
my
flip.
god, there's
Coin
no
flip.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't be
I'm bringing him in.
serious. You actually.
Somebody's
can't
got to
bring him in.
encourage Mix,
Trolling.
and besides, I think it would be funny if Astralis lose to MIBRs.
Dude, you guys are so troll. You guys are so troll.
I will say
okay,
a
but
serious point of analysis about Astralis is that they actually have not done as well as they used to do against teams that they didn't seem to prepare for. Now we have a sample size of one tournament, but like the K23 loss, if that's anything to go by, like my analysis brain doesn't say MIBR beat Astralis or even have like a solid chance. But if you're gonna try to craft that narrative of making that game somewhat exciting to watch, then you have to look at it, right? You have to say like, okay, well, they lost to K23 and that Steam Code guard guy said that Ecstatic were cheating, so I don't know. There's the point there somewhere. You guys can figure it out.
This comment in chat is killing me, and all Des B Frag wrote is blame F watching MIBR demos. He's not even gonna pull it up. Like he actually might not even watch their demos. I'm convinced. Okay, let's move to Group C. Let's move Vitality EG. This is the most fun group by far. I'll say that. Like out the gates.
Yeah,
This group is sick. New Vitality versus new EG, and then FaZe with ROPS versus a brand new Liquid, essentially.
This
like,
is a stacked group.
Crazy. This is where your predictions. Okay, we're going 1 through 4 for all of us. Okay, Dinko, go tell us your 1 through 4. Tell us your 1 through 4.
Going FaZe number 1, Vitality number 2,
Okay,
number
okay, I'll
3
let you have the four.
EG, and Liquid is number 4.
Oof. Hurts.
Oh my god.
You gonna bet against
Actually,
Shock?
no.
Okay.
You know what?
I'll
I've just
go-
had a change of heart. I actually think it's going to be number 4 for EG. That was a little close
Yeah.
in between Liquid and EG, but I'm going to put EG in number 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Vitality number 1, FaZe number 2, Liquid, EG.
Okay, Mix.
Do you even need to ask who I have as number 1? Pretty
Liquid.
obvious.
He's just OC, of course.
So,
MIBR.
of course.
It's not even Liquid, it's OC.
It's OC best rated.
He's number 1. All right, they're gonna shock the world. Liquid comes out number 1. Man, it's like I want to be so biased for NA, but like it's also like Vitality and FaZe, and
I know.
I really don't want EG to be number 4, but I just know they're going to be because there's just so many question marks.
Mm.
But see, if I didn't just make that crazy prediction that MiBR would beat Astralis, I would have said Liquid and EG 1 and 2.
Okay, you can't go too crazy on
Yeah,
every
so-
prediction.
So Liquid 1, I'll go phase 2, vitality 3, EG4.
What the fuck is this?
Oh, no.
What the fuck
Okay,
is
Pernogo,
this?
what's yours?
So I think FaZe number 1,
Okay.
and it doesn't even matter which NA team is number 2 and Vitality number 3. I don't think they actually
What?
gel immediately. I think they will take some time to warm up. That's my bold prediction. I think this is online, this is best of 1, and this is mixed, like first time English speaking roster. I guess it's not really first time for some of these players, but you get the idea. It's like first time as a team, as this 5-man unit. It's their debut. They got a lot of factors riding against them if you're looking for consistency, right? And so that's my main thing. That's my main argument against Vitality.
Yeah. I'll say this, I wouldn't put Liquid number 1 if it was BO3s probably, but because it's BO1s, I'm going to have a bit more faith in actually making that prediction.
Okay.
And then
I'll put Liquid 2 and EG4 just to finish.
So I have FaZe over Vitality.
Yeah, sure.
I have FaZe over Vitality because I do think Vitality will have a bit of growing pains compared to FaZe.
Yeah.
Where I think for FaZe it's a lot easier. Rops is just slot in for Olaf.
Yes.
That's like a direct upgrade. And so
I was
think
going to
it'll
make
be
the
up
same
easier for
point. Yeah, I was going to make the same point that on paper, even as the man that sips the most ROPS hater rate, I can't really see FaZe like bombing out of this. Like it would be stretched to say even that they would come third, knowing what we know about this. But I will I will still say they come third. I'd say Vitality is going to win it. I say that EG is going to come second, FaZe third, Liquid fourth. And the reason I say this is because I've been talking to NiKo a lot lately. Because at Relog at the Funspark event, we were in the room next to them, and NiKo and Hunter would come over to our room all the time to just talk with Kassad and me. And NiKo said when he scrimmed them all, he said this is what he said about the teams. Like he's like, yeah, Vitality and FaZe are good, but he was like, Kassad was kind of like, surely like EG are like going to be last in this group, right? And then NiKo's like, no, like Automatic is playing well right now. Automatic is playing well, which was like,
he's getting the floppy buff.
Yeah, he's getting a big buff right there. And then he even said this about Liquid. He's like, Liquid, I mean, the only guy that shot back was Leash. So I don't know. I don't know if EG is I mean Liquid. I don't know if Liquid are really hidden right now.
This is hot info straight from the bread's mouth itself. This is pretty intense.
Listen, you know that I can only rate OC so low, so I can't put him number 4, unfortunately, and put EG number 1. So that I'm gonna have to stick with OC as number 1. But I am interested to see how EG does. There's something it's just like the NA fanboy in me, and also just the fact that like Automatic's back, and I just want to see like these players all play together, stew with like they're probably the most interesting team for me to watch, just from like a pure bias standpoint.
Yes. Same. I want to see EG more than any team.
Why this team now? Like they had this team after they won a world championship, and they decided it's not good enough. And then 2 years later, or how many years later? 4 now. It's kind of crazy. Like we put together a team that after Automatic's been playing a completely different game. Rush hasn't really been doing a whole lot lately. I mean, it just feels like surely it's not going to be that good. Like
I'm pissed it's not Valde. I'm so
if
pissed.
There's one thing we've learned over the years is that scrim results obviously correlate to match results. And I'll have you know, complexity was beating NaVi in scrims, so all complexity obviously if we're doing this with EG too.
When they were still on extra salt.
True.
Actually, now that you do the scrim logic note, actually, maybe Liquid should win this group. Maybe because they were the worst in scrims.
Yeah, you
sandbagging in scrims. They're actually
exactly.
Okay. I think that's a pretty decent coverage of it. Honestly, okay, let's move on to the next topic. Actually,
And also, you can base my entire knowledge of CS just based off my predictions. Of course,
that's generally how this stuff works. Yeah. Honestly, if you get 100% correct, then you're actually like a god. But if you get none of them right, I mean, you could still be. It's actually as hard. That's just as hard, actually.
Yeah. I feel like being 100% correct is like way more lucky than being like 75% correct. Like,
yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually.
Or it means you're radaring. Obviously, come on now.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, radar from sky, eye from sky. God, yeah.
Gotta tag it.
Bird from God. Okay, let's move into a little bit of news here. There's a couple things we have on the agenda. So the first is that they moved out Calyx from Eternal Fire, and we were kind of, okay, well, like, basically, Calyx is out of Eternal Fire. Not too many people watch too much of Eternal Fire, but like from what you guys gathered about this team, like what was your guys like? Where is this fair? Is this fair? Like, did somebody need to move? Did somebody need to change?
I mean, the problem with this team is, they don't actually get along that well, apparently. Like, the rumors behind the scenes is they just never really got along too well. And I think, you brought Issa in first. They have this whole project. I mean, Xantares was in-game leading when they started things off, so immediately I'm questioning this roster completely. And I mean, Calix wasn't playing that well, and I think this team just so inconsistent. Like, as soon as they have one little problem or they don't make an event, they completely shift their eyes on what they want. I think their problem for Eternal Fire is kind of similar to a lot of teams right now. You see them, they won't have money or backing to get into these partner teams, these partner leagues. So they're always going to have to play through qualifiers, open qualifiers. And we see them play in these competitions, and when they get to an open qualifier for DreamHack Open, ESL Challenger, they run into a team like Fnatic, or they run into an Entropic or Force or something like that, and they just lose. Like, they're never going to get a spot at these big events, it feels like. And for a team like Eternal Fire, that is going to be frustrating for these players. Woxic and Issa, and obviously at the time Issa, he's no longer there, but like Woxic and Xantares, two players that are going to want to play at these bigger events and show what they've got. You're going to feel the expectation of Turkey as well behind you. I think this team is just a pressure cooker, and the disappointment isn't going to stop anytime soon. And I think we're just going to see players just getting cut constantly. They're going to look for someone to blame, and that's probably just going to be the story of this Eternal Fire side. I don't think if you're going to try and keep putting this roster together, I just don't see them really getting an opportunity to make it to the big tournaments or anything.
I had the same feeling about them, like when they first joined, that both in game and out game, that would essentially be, like you said, like a pressure cooker. Just in game, I just felt like the roles were just like weren't gonna make any sense. Like, they just weren't gonna mesh well, even if like people were like committed to like playing a certain role. Like, just based on what I knew about Calix and Xantares, and Issa was on the team at the time, and just every other player, it's like they were all generally on like a lot of their teams like aggressive, playing in the pack, like rotator spots. And so I just didn't really see like how their team was actually gonna like mesh out in a way that makes sense. And then, like you said, it seems like personality-wise, they're also not really getting along super well, out of game or in game. So it's like they don't really have that I can't think of the word, but they don't have like that chemistry together. The roles itself don't really like line up and make sense within game. And so I agree with you that like it's probably just gonna be like more of the same for like the next few months. I don't really understand, like I don't know where it's gonna stop with this team or how they're actually going to get the results that they want.
Apparently Calix played this morning, actually, and I just looked at their game. And
I did notice that a couple of days ago. Yeah, I was looking at it because I thought I had seen that, and then I saw Calix is still playing. So I was like,
he was out, then he was back in before they even played an official.
I knew that player had to be fake with that name, Maui. Like
duggyversus,
not a real player. Sure, it's not a real player. They're just trolling everybody.
Guy was definitely that guy's their best player on their Academy League team. I'll say that. The EF Academy.
How does it feel when you hear that name said by like professional commentators that are like some of the best people alive, and they go in duggyversus?
And duggyversus finds the triple. Dinko, how would you say it? Duggyversus just hits gets a triple kill, 1v3. We need to hear it.
So I have to get into the mindset.
He's Inferno, post plant. He kills 3 people, and he's playing on default the entire time on the plant spot. And he kills 3 CTs running in from spawn. Let's get it.
duggyversus with his clear mentality out of this Academy team. Look at this awareness. Look at the positional space. This is unbelievable from duggyversus. He's taken down 3. The best player in the world, duggyversus.
Wow. That's it.
Everyone's favorite name, of course.
That's it right there. This is what we need more of.
I did not realize that the Eternal Fire Academy was not like a troll. I didn't know that was like an actual
Yeah, why do they actually have a team? I mean, it's still better than zero prospects. I mean,
there it is.
That is true.
There it is.
We have to tag on that one around here. Yeah.
You're good, Mally. I think.
I'm back. Yeah,
I did notice that earlier. There's like one time I was talking and you were just completely frozen. I was like, I really hope he comes back.
No, I'm here. I'm alive. But no, that was
just quit after my attempt to cast.
After you said duggyversus was the best player in the world, I did have to take a breather for a second.
Reset real quick.
No, that's Major Finals 2025. Actually, that's actually it.
We'll be having the argument why duggyversus got number 2 over NiKo next year.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the next one. This is actually some kind of interesting news that the way that ENCE are rounding out their roster is with maden. So I actually think that maden was probably I think maden probably was the best player on FPX for a lot of it, but it was very balanced. Like, it was a very balanced performance from that team.
But I didn't see them play much. So what roles was he usually playing?
kind of like pressure lurker, I'd say was
Was he like
one
an
of his
anchor on
things.
CT as well?
Was he anchor on
Or was
CT?
he-
I think Zen was an anchor, and I would have forgot if it was like Stiko or Maden map to map.
It probably changed based on the map, honestly. Then
Yeah, could have been. I would have guessed right now that he was more rotator than Stiko, but
yeah.
not. I couldn't say for certain on that.
I was just curious based on the roles in ENCE as well.
The ENCE thing
Well,
is always like they're a team that I still want to succeed. I don't think they can ever succeed on the level that the LXCB ENCE had, like the all finish ENCE had. But for me, this is like the perennial, like, you know how we always have Mouse Sports and back in the day before they really ascended to a contender team, but then they kind of sank back down. It was like when they were first starting to gel, or like FaZe Clan, but before NiKo and Olaf Meister and whoever else came in. Kerrigan was like, I need the best players in the world. And before they had their IAM New York run from like back in 2018, probably. So before they were even contenders to get defeated by Cloud9 and in that epic fashion at the major. And when we have these international mixes, I think that's really good for the scene because it does fuel the idea. It's sort of like, representation or demonstration that you actually can just come together as a unit, and maybe you can't win the major final because no team without the same language has ever done that, but you can contend for it. You can get really high. You can be top one in the world for a period of time. And that's one of the things that I always really liked about this ENCE squad when they started to come up and they were rebranding. I kind of like the same thing about Mad Lions, although they've been shifting some players around recently as well. So anytime a team like this happens, it always tickles my fancy personally. I love to see like how these sort of teams can actually make a system work without having the luxury of all of the shared history of everybody else, the shared culture and that sort of thing. So to that extent, I don't think this is... I don't know how high we all rate Maden here. I full disclosure just didn't watch that many FPX games, so like I don't know how solid he really was in the last year. But if this is an opportunity for him to maybe, I won't say even redefine his career, but like he can do some more good, basically.
I think Maden, no joke, should be the second best player on this roster.
Okay.
I think
Who's the first? Hades?
No, I might even say
no.
Diha.
I
might even say Diha.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think Maden should bring a good amount. I think the one of the storylines for me for this ENCE roster is kind of like how close they were to making it work, but then they just kind of collapsed at the major in the fashion that they did, and I think that kind of like
been struggling since then. Yeah, probably shook their confidence a bit.
Yeah, that if they would have done any better, I think this could have been a different lineup. Like I remember, like in the Challenger stage, where it was like, oh, is Copenhagen Flames going to make it out? Probably not. But then I think more people thought ENCE were going to make it through than people thought Copenhagen Flames were going to make it through. So that probably hurt them a lot because the expectation should never have been that high for themselves, but it was probably high enough that they did feel like they failed. They didn't win, so they failed. Yeah.
The thing about ENCE at that point was as well that when they were having some good results at the RMR, the thing was Snappy was playing unbelievably well individually himself, and I just don't see that happening throughout most of the year. Snappy stepping up, so I think bringing in more firepower in Maden coming through, I have to agree with you, Maui. I think he's going to be probably second best, if not the best player on this team. And I think for Doto won a couple of good clutches, certainly made some stability in the team, but at the point where ENCE were playing their best, Snappy was stepping up, and I don't think that's going to happen. So you have to add some more firepower in, and I'm glad Maden got a shot because I think he's one of those players with all these high-profile free agents out there. Maden kind of went under a lot of people's radar because, like Pernoga, a lot of people didn't watch the FPX games because those guys barely were at many big events. So it's like he's one of the players that has a lot of talent and could have went under the radar and went missing for a long time. So I think he's actually going to do some good stuff in this ENCE team, and they've done a really good job at just putting together a lot of interesting plays. Spinks, he was a player everybody was getting hyped about and actually performs pretty well. And the most important thing for me is that the culture of this team was the biggest question mark I had. But these guys all get along super well, and they're from entirely different cultures. And that could definitely be a problem for the future, because I remember speaking to Natu about this ENCE team, and he said that actually Spinks one day, there's a whole religious day in Israel where they're going to turn off all of the electrics and no one uses the electric. And they were basically had like an important pro league game or something. And they had to fly Spinks to Finland because power was just going to cut out. So there's a lot of problems for the ENCE team in terms of culture. And they've done a really good job at like making this team work. But I think Maden just makes it better. Removing Doto, it is just going to make this team actually pretty exciting to look at for the long term.
I was leaving that
Yeah.
for you, Note, but I don't know if you wanted to take the interception here.
I mean, I hadn't watched enough FPX to really make like an informed comment on Maden's forum at all. So I think for me, really just seeing more rosters, like more new rosters come in this year is just exciting in general. Like any team that makes changes with the number of teams that have come in and sort of upgraded their roster is just exciting in general.
I think one of the things about
I'm trying to get fired over here, apparently.
One of the things about the ENCE version of this, like the ENCE side of it, right, is I don't actually know if they, like, I agree that, so Dinko, you made the point that Snappy was popping off in some of their successful games, and that's something that you can't expect to happen all the time. And I think if you're looking for consistency, I'm not sure what Doto brought to the table in terms of comms or team spirit or anything that, like those intangibles that can influence consistency for your stars. For me, I think I would really like to see Hades accept the call to action at this point. He's been on the roster for long enough to gel with the system that Snappy envisions. And obviously Spinks stole some of the limelight initially with the, taking the limelight away from some of the other players that maybe were going to be fraggers. But at this point, we know that the meta is kind of solidified after Valve's latest meddling. And we know that you still need the top opper. Like that opper needs to be a really high skilled player in your team. So I think Hades has the skill. It's a question of consistency, right? So he's been hot or not a few times. And I think once he gets his system going, be that on this team or some other team in the future, if it takes a while for him to really level himself up, assuming he makes it at all, I guess. But I'm voting for him and rooting for him, and I am backing him to eventually get up there. The question really is whether or not he does it in a fast enough time, and whether or not this meta move helps them, because maybe they can just achieve that level of consistency, and then they can go and I think they, again, I don't expect that they'll get to like top 2 in the world the way that the old ENCE camp did, but this should still be a return to consistency for the team, I think, assuming what you guys said about Maden is correct, where he was a standout player on FPX. It's kind of a shame that like FPX by all metrics was supposed to be a higher level team in terms of what they could do than the ENCE team, but I watched way more ENCE than FPX just because, like Dinko said, the FPX were barely in any tournaments.
Okay. I think we wrapped that one up pretty well. We have some we have a patron question or some, and then we usually take a couple sub questions. We're gonna change this a little bit because it seems we're just gonna change it. We're not gonna explain our reasons as to why, but we'll just take 2 of the best sub questions from chat. We're just gonna do 2 of those as opposed to like 5, which we did before. So get on if you want your question answered and you missed the show timing, make sure you get on Patreon. I don't shout out the Patreon enough, honestly. So make sure you guys get on there, and I think it's just a $5 minimum and you can have a question. So yeah, just do that. Also, the thing is that's better about Patreon versus subbing is that it's also like we get more of the cut of it versus if you do a $5 sub on Twitch, like I only get like $2.50. Just think about it like that. Just think
do you
about
want
it
to give
like
money to Jeff Bezos so he can go on another trip to space, or do you want to give some money to Maui so we can actually eat? This is an easy solution for you guys.
Let's make sure we can pay everybody's bills here. So the patron money, everybody gets to eat. Everybody except the guest. Except the guest doesn't get to eat. You just gotta expense that, and we'll get back to you in 6 months if you send an invoice. Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't have American taxes, then I just can't pay you. Sorry. Okay, that's how it is.
Thanks for coming on though, Dinko. Really sick.
We appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll start with the question of the week. Okay, so we'll pop that one up there first, Pronogo, and then the Patreon. I'll type the Patreon after I ask the question of the week. The question of the week is more or less, if I remember correctly, what I wrote. It's just that what do we wish pros did more of on social media or whatever, really, to like boost their brands for us? Like what things would we want to see from them? So let's do this. Let's do Pronogo. What do you want more from pros? What do you want more?
So Complexity has been releasing these very short videos on Twitter where they had one where JT finally made it with his visa, and it was like the eagle has landed, and they had like some eagle emoji, and it's like, yeah, NA. But then the video is him saying, hey guys, it's me, JT. I've arrived at the bootcamp. And I know that they probably just wanted a real quick update, and he obviously is like a business guy, right? He's in there for the business. He's not here to make videos. He's here to pop heads as a fragging IGL, as Mix would say, right? So under those circumstances, I understand why he's, maybe a little bit more tepid in the camera personality department, but it would be nice to get all of the players on for these, especially if the orgs can sort of organize that, and that can be part of like, you're under the complexity banner now. I just feel like I'm singling out complexity because that's what's in my mind, but there's loads of teams that would benefit from this, especially if you don't really have a lot of crossover with the English audience. I think like a team like Entropic would be great to get some insight into the players, even if you need to run it through a translator or something. There's going to be some enthusiasts who will do that, right? I want to know what's going on in Elian's head when he's doing some of these plays. Like, I just want more shoulder content that is actually sourced from the teams or someone close to the teams themselves, because it's one thing to get it on the broadcast, but in downtime like this, which I guess admittedly isn't that often, but we don't have too many tier 1 tournaments, or they are a little bit more spaced apart, it makes a lot of sense to keep, engaging with the fans, as it were. We use all these weird terms now, but just sending out messages to the fans, be like, hey, check us out. We're doing this right now. And here's like a team bonding exercise. It can be totally out of the game. It can be totally unrelated to CS. But, bonus points of obviously it is. So that's what I would say. I'd like more bombastic stuff along the lines of what Complexity is doing, but like maybe they record a quick skit where like, they have like a CGI helicopter, very high quality animation happening where JT steps off and Mr. President, get down, or something. Just do something. Give me something. I need something exciting in my life. I mean, Complexity is already exciting, but more exciting. Give me more. That's what I say.
Okay. Dinko, what do you want more from pros?
I think the onus isn't really on the pros itself. Like those guys they're there to play the game, right? I think it's on to people like the broadcast, the TOs, the organizations to really do this, like, and help the players, because I mean the players don't actually go into this to be media personalities. They go into it to be professional Counter-Strike players first and foremost, but they are stepping into the entertainment industry. So it really is on to the people who contract the players and would benefit from building their profiles. But what I would love to see is those sort of one-on-one sit-down conversations to players that we don't really see too often. I think that's the content I really enjoy the most, is like when it's just a one-on-one long-form conversation where it's casual and you get the most out of it, as long as the interviewer is actually trusted. Like I think Sadicus did really good interviews recently where he sits down with twists and stuff, and you can tell they just get far better answers when they're actually very comfortable with the interviewer. And I don't think the content that a lot of orgs do, like I think Complexity ran a really good behind the scenes content piece on YouTube very regular, and people didn't watch it. They just don't care for some reason. So that's a problem. And
wait, you mean their documentary series?
Their documentary.
Dude, I watched every single one of those.
Yeah, yes, but I don't think it was like promoted that well, because like a lot of people didn't even really the viewership was kind of low. But Team Liquid's one is very good, because what people want is to feel part of the group and part of the whole scene. And if you're only seeing them play on the screen, then come off the stage, then they're not really humans to you. But if you get a little like a peek behind what are Team Liquid doing in their facility this week, and you get to see they're messing around, you get to see the personalities, how the teams gel. That's just, for me, it's the most interesting, is like how is the actual team atmosphere, how are things going there, because it makes you feel like you're actually part of it on screen and off screen. Like there's more things available there. So I would love to just see pros be comfortable with cameras following them around in their practice facilities. And obviously that's going to be easier for the bigger orgs, but it would be cool to see more of that, I guess, just like behind the scenes following around the teams and seeing what they're up to.
Yeah, I was going to say, like...
Okay. Take it.
Yeah, I was similar, like, to along those lines, like what you said about Team Liquid, like those type of like documentary things. Almost like, I don't know if you watched like the McLaren unbox videos for F1, but like literally, so if Liquid,
sorry,
muted.
No,
is it? Okay.
I was just spamming. I said nothing. So. Don't worry.
All right.
Okay.
But I was gonna say, so like even with Liquid, it's like or like with C9, we did that kind of thing of like C9, but there wasn't like a lot of like content of just people the content I think that is engageable and enjoyable is when it's just people, behind the scenes just acting casually together, like, nothing crazy going on. I feel like the one-to-one interviews are like showing highlights of like games isn't really that interesting. Like I don't need to see like frag highlights of, Liquid at ESL Liquid. Like I already watched the games. Like it's not that interesting.
Yeah, I
It's not
agree.
really
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So it's like just content of just like 16 minutes, just having a dude, follow you around, just like filming all the time, just like random stuff. You're just going out to dinner, you're just going for a walk outside, like you're just setting up at like a thing, and just like behind the scenes content, just seeing them, just do their thing. You kind of edit out like just an overall like little bit of a story for like the whole thing, and it's just all just like you're seeing personality that you don't usually see. And eventually, I think you're just kind of like a fly on the wall, basically, and that's like what the content is. You're just a fly on the wall for like whatever event they're at, whatever boot camp they're at. So that would be my serious answer. If you want like a dumb answer, I would say I want players giving wrestling style promos.
I'm
Is that
gonna
really
just pick
dumb
it
though?
up.
That sounds epic.
Yeah, I'm gonna just kind of pick it up because I kind of actually would. I kind of my dumb answer is just I want players to shit talk more. My real answer is that I want I kind of actually similarly would want something like what Mick said, is that, for example, like when Floppy went to Serbia by himself and was just kind of stranded there, like
was
it would
so
be
funny.
cool if there was like a cameraman with him to just kind of like it doesn't all have to be like highs, it could actually show a little bit of the adversity that Floppy faced, where it's like, yeah, Floppy here flying from Oregon
Dude,
all the way to
if
Serbia.
if they had just sent me to fucking Serbia in the first place, I would have
Yeah.
I could have gone there with a fucking camera, and I would have had the best content just filming Ricky all the time.
Yeah.
Like so that's
Just-
Ricky just sitting there eating McDonald's, and I'm like in the corner, just like fucking like zooming in.
Little things
Yeah,
like
I mean-
that to just humanize people, I think it just goes such a long way. Like humanizing players because unlike real sports where we get to like see a person's style based off of
Yeah.
every little action that they take, in Counter-Strike it's a little bit harder to really get like a feel for someone's
because at the end
body
of the day,
language or
it's
personality.
different from like real sports, right? Because like in real sports, you're using like your physical body to do all these like different types of things.
Yeah.
And in esports, like at the end of the day, all it is and all it's ever going to look like is sitting at your computer, moving a mouse and a keyboard. Like that's just
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah.
So you need to do things to actually humanize these people and actually understand them,
Mhm.
like more as people, just like their personality and stuff. It just makes you more interested in watching them and like following them,
Right.
and just you're just more invested naturally.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
UFC
mean-
is probably the best for that. To take inspiration for esports, I think it's actually pretty doable as well. Like they have the vlog series they do just before the main event, and they head out and they film like they interview the fighters in terms of what they're doing at their practice facility. They show where they grow up, they show where they work, where the team they practice with. Like get to know what their preparation looks like rather than just seeing the end product. Actually understand like the struggles of what they go through, like say they're having to say goodbye to the family again, and like the North American players, for example, like everybody would feel so much more empathy towards the North American players if you understood this is what they're leaving behind every single time they go to play in Serbia for months in a completely different culture. And I think just understanding that would be really easy, and it probably wouldn't be that expensive. I mean, what is it really, like a flight, a camera, and then paying a good editor to put it together? Like it's not really that bad, maybe.
Like for some of these, you probably don't even need like an actual cameraman. Like just get them like a decent camera and just film like random shit, and you'll have like an actual editor put together. So like just film hours worth of random shit. I don't know.
I want to hear notes take.
I mean, I've said this for quite a while, but I think that just general like extraneous content in esports is so unexplored, and so like there's so much more potential for the amount of different types of content you could possibly produce, whether it be like from a team or the player themselves. Now you see like a couple more players sort of delving into it themselves. You have Sticko doing his own YouTube series and Kerrigan doing the voice comms and whatnot. But even on top of that, there's just potential for so much more to be added. To be fair, like I'm not a huge fan of Kerrigan's vlogs, I will say. I find those tend to be like a little bit slower. But I just think that there's so much that orgs could do to expand on that on top of everything. Like you guys were saying, even if you had somebody with a camera sitting behind players for scrims or their matches, the potential to sort of add like a picture-in-picture sort of deal where you have the players playing the match and then you have the actual camera behind the player where they're actually like you can hear their comps through the camera. They're actually have the same perspectives linked up. I think Cold Zero used to do this actually. Not with like the in-game part of it, but he used to have like a camera behind him when he was playing in matches, and that was really cool. That was sick content, I would say. But on top of that, you can have a lot of these teams already have managers or coaches or people who know them well enough with videographers that are already on site. Even when I was at Blast Fall, like 4 or 5 of the teams that were walking around all had permanent camera people. Like they were all recording some form of vlog content, but half the time I didn't even see that pop up anywhere. Like I would have to go out of my way to look for it because I knew they were recording it because I saw them recording it in person. I feel like a lot of this doesn't get promoted well enough. Also, people say that they want this content, but then when hard work actually goes into producing it, it just never gets the same traction. The Liquid did a whole like documentary on the roster they just had with Stewie from when he joined.
Yeah, I watched
and that documentary series was really good. Like it was something like a 30-minute video or something like that.
Yeah, pretty in depth. Yeah, went through all the highs and
Yeah,
lows.
exactly. But the fact is that they also had like the One Up production team had the proper mindset going into that in terms of how they were going to record it. They were ready to ask the players questions about specific things. I think there's so much more that you could do around that with all of these teams also being in boot camp environments. Like there's what's stopping these teams from having a sit down with a player, asking them like 5-6 questions, adding gameplay to that, adding like a storyline to whatever is happening in that match and splicing that together, or an event. Like even if you go out in last place, there's so much that you can do around that it's just so vastly unexplored for a lot of this. Like if you think Furia can't make that same sort of content, caption it in English, like the amount of views that they would get on something like that would be immense. So I think there's so much more that can be added along with what you guys have said.
My absolute fucking favorite thing is just seeing like the raw emotion from like someone after they lose. And I just feel like we don't get nearly enough of that. And then, like sometimes orgs will like try to do like loser interviews and players like, why don't I do an interview right after I lose? And it's like it's like the whole fucking point of this thing. Like this
Yes, it is.
like, what are you talking about?
Have you ever watched sports? You know,
there was one videographer for Big. His name is Johannes, and he used to travel around with a big team. I think like 2019 around that time. Every event he would go to, he would put together an incredible piece of content after. But it was always the same story. Like Big would play 2 games and then go out after losing 2 best of 3s. And it's like Big didn't really want to do that anymore. Like they didn't want that content just to be coming out all the time. It's just like, oh, here go Big flying to another event and they're out again, So I think there's like there is problems that come with that as well. But the most important thing, and something that I think we don't do enough, is really create content around teams that people don't know so much about. Like we don't know really anything about Perfecto. Like for example, like players, little details about that. Like who even knows what Perfecto's personality's like? And Simple calls him a genius, and we don't know anything about him. Like there's lots of details here that we just don't even know anything about most of the players. Never mind the team. So we need to just figure out a way to discover more about these players. Like no one knew who Yukindar was coming into last year, and he forced his way to do content. Like you have to want to do it. He did it at the major.
Him.
With you obviously, but even at the major, he wanted to sit and do the content with James. He wanted to stick around. He wanted to play in the show match because he understands that if you're a player that people actually know about, you get far more brand deals. You're liked by the community. This is something players that they should do more, is actually want to do content, because you can create all the content, but if you're not even up for the interviews or whatever, then that's a problem. But we need to know more about every player. Once we know that, it compels people to watch the content. You can't get people to go and watch the content if they don't know who anybody is, other than, okay, this guy hits headshots in the game, right? We have to know a little bit about them before it really entices people to want more of them.
Yes. All right, let's wrap this one up. Pronogo, do you have the Patreon question ready?
Yes, I do. Before I switch to that, can I just say, Boomich, please sing another Christmas song? please.
Wouldn't mind that. I actually think Gambit released a thing where it's like they all had to guess songs, and that was
okay.
good. But I think a music video would be great on top of that.
Dude, he's just got a great voice, clearly.
That's true.
Wait, we actually have two CS people doing good voice. You know, whatever you think about vocals, right? Carlos with his G2 music video, and Boomich with the Last Christmas QB Fire. Let's get him Carlos feat Boomich. You know, little I don't know, something. To be clear, I'm not leaking that Boomich has been sold to G2. Just saying. That would be a pretty big downgrade.
That would be
your second leak of this podcast.
Could you read the Patreon question? I don't have it in front of me.
Sure can. It is now on stream, so it says, Adam asks, what advantages did XTAZ bring to Vitality that Zonic might not be able to replicate?
He's French.
Oh.
That's
true.
That's an advantage for
I don't
Zonic.
think Zonic will ever be able to replicate that.
That's a good question. Hold on. Let me look at something.
I've got an immediate take, which is that I don't think, like, Zonic obviously has a lot of pedigree as a coach, but I don't know if he's ever been responsible for subbing players out. I know he was responsible, at least in part, for denying config back in the day.
Wait, what do you mean by subbing players out?
Well, obviously, XTAZ had the poll, at least according to all of the stories that people have heard publicly. That XTAZ was the one to say, Apex, you need to take a break. Now, I think he kind of got overruled.
Zonic did too, though. He put, like, Zipnix on notice. Zipnix almost got benched, like, a few years ago. There was another player that I think Dupree also was put on notice at some point. So Zonic's definitely done it. He's never actually had to follow through because the players improved.
Okay, sure.
I will say something that I don't like as Chatter said it. It's like Zonic is overrated, but like one thing that XX does have an advantage over is that he already has experience with, starting the Vitality team with Alex, and then having that as like his original IGL, and then having to transfer that to Apex.
Yes,
so he didn't just so he didn't just have like 5 years of Glaive, which is, obviously Zonic still has to play a big part in them being that fucking good for that long, but still that's still a very big advantage to have Glaive that entire time. So just the fact that XTAZ has already proved to like himself and just like the players on just the general community and everyone around him, right, that he was able to successfully transition a team from Alex suddenly leaving right then could have plumstered fucking Vitality into like some like real bad slump, like if they weren't able to successfully transition over to Apex calling, and I'm sure XTAZ played a big part in that in some way. So the fact that he's already been able to do that is just helps your pedigree as a coach. It just helps your own confidence with having to transition things like that, and just overall like adapt. I guess he's already had to like adapt in that way, whereas like Zonic has had a pretty consistent IGL to fall back on.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's raised up now, a guy that really, I don't think even still to this day gets a lot of credit for being a great IGL, but he's proven that he is exceptional. So Alex left the team, like went inactive in March of 2020. It took 3 months before Vitality topped their group at Blast. They came second place at the Blast Spring European Finals. They came second place at CS Summit 6 Europe. They came second place at ESL Cologne. This is all within 5 months, basically, of Alex leaving. Like the results they got that quickly with a guy that's never even been seen as like a cerebral player now being the IGL is insane. Like that is like, that's probably XTAZ's biggest achievement as a coach, is the way that he was able to keep that roster afloat without a true IGL at the helm. But now I would say that Apex is a very good IGL, but it's not just Apex that did it. It's definitely, I would have to assume XTAZ was a massive contributor.
I think also Zonic, we haven't actually, if you look back in CSGO, hasn't played without a top tier in-game leader, right? It's like you had Carrigan and then you had Glaive, and so they're two very, very talented in-game leaders, two of the best we got. So I think XTAZ have more recency in terms of having to start fresh in this new meta of CSGO, like over the few years, and seems like he's really good at personality, like managing personalities. And this is also an issue with what we know about the coaches. It's a lot of speculation because we actually don't know too much about what the coaches actually do because we don't have that content to see what they're doing behind the scenes. But from listening to the interview Striker gave today with Alexi B, he was saying, Alexi B was saying that XTAS is coming in with a very pragmatic attitude, saying, I'm not going to make any changes straight away because I need to know every player, how they are, their personalities, how they approach the game. It seems like he's learned a lot in terms of having to make those transitions from, someone who is an entry fragger into a tactical in-game leader. These are big changes, and you can learn a lot from dealing with lots of new young players. You have to get them up to speed very quickly. I think that's something that XTAS has got really down pat at the moment. It's a very recency bias kind of thing where he's very used to getting those players up to the level of the top tier as quickly as possible. Now, obviously, it's still hard with Kyojin, but going into a team like G2, for example, he's already starting to have a pragmatic approach there. I think just the recency of having to make big changes is something XTAS is going to have over Zonic. I think Zonic now has to go through a huge change for his own, and we don't know how he's going to be able to do it, but he hasn't had to for years, whereas XTAS has had to deal with big changes recently.
Okay, I think we could just wrap up the show, unless someone else has a point on this. Yeah?
We did get a single Twitch sub question, but it was super far back, and it was about the enormous cloud hanging over esports now, so I don't know if you even want to talk about it. Considering the time that we were at.
That was one question. That is a good question.
That's a question. Let's see. Oh wait, no, we got another question. We got another sub question actually. Just now. Let's use that one.
I don't know what to say about the other one other than it's bad. That's
okay. That's your take on it. We got another question. Then we don't have to have takes on it. Okay, maybe not K. What would you say? I'll say this. I'm gonna talk about that. I'm sure on the next Snake and Banter. I don't know what I'm gonna say yet, so I'm not gonna say anything now. That's my take.
That's the
same. I haven't put enough thought into this.
Yeah,
I think we leave it for next time for this show at least. Yeah.
Okay, maybe not K though. Says as a sub, what would you say is the most underrated quality for an IGL? I want to give this to Mix. Mix, what do you think the most underrated quality for IGL is?
Oh man, you just let me off.
Having only 2 letters in your name.
Yeah. That is a good one. JT.
Yeah,
I mean that's all. I'm trying to think of like an actual good answer. Someone else go.
Okay, commanding respect. I think that's the most important thing. Because you have a really good tactical in-game leaders that really know what they're talking about, but if you can't get people to be on board with you and respect your calls or your decisions or actually allow you to lead them, then it's not going to work at all, right? So I think you have to have some sort of charisma or some sort of personality trait that allows people to want to trust you and believe in you and respect you. Because if they walk over the top of you, they call over you, you just lose control of the team immediately. And there's a lot of IGLs like that. So I think the good ones, they command respect and are leader of men.
I'll build off that. Sorry to kind of cut that one, but I actually, when I talked to NiKo recently about Alexi B, he didn't spill too many details about it, but it was before they were practicing for a while with him, and immediately the first thing that he said that he liked was that he's a good captain. He is taking charge. So that just builds on your point, Dinko. I think that's something that players care about. They want a guy that they can look up to in the server that's gonna take charge when it needs to be done.
Yeah, a lot of players, they just suggest what they want to do instead of actually calling what you should do. They suggest we could do this. Just call for the team. Just say what we're doing, and if it doesn't work, well, at least you knew you had a clear plan instead of starting to suggest, because that's when you just are off paper completely with the rest of your team.
I don't have a word thing for mine, but I would say that being dynamic in terms of when you know to relinquish the reins and when to take full control, as to having other players also make calls and sort of mid-round a bit. For example, a lot of teams have secondary colors, and knowing when to overrule that or to concede a little bit of control in terms of what you want to do in the round is also really important. And sort of that defines a lot of the way that certain teams end up playing with their secondary colors in their teams. So I think Alexi B, for example, has already said that NiKo and Hunter don't need much like they can have sort of freedom. They don't need much micromanaging. And with that, like to me, that also makes it sound as if I actually haven't listened to the interview yet, but to me that sounds just by the quote that he's also like willing to hear out their calls mid round a little bit and sort of adapt off them. And being able to do that gives just more dynamic fluidity to the team, and I think that's really important in terms of overall style.
I was gonna say, I think actually like the most important thing, so it's something like isn't like talked about enough, and like what I say, like you said, the most underrated quality and something I think you desperately, absolutely need is like the ability to be a leader, like you said, like be a captain, be an IGL, be a leader, but not blame people. And it's so easy when you are having to be in charge of these people and you're having to call for them and like control them that like, you know, when someone kind of fucks something up, you're like kind of irritated or angry about it. And you're like, you know, I told you, like, we got to do this instead of this or something, right? You know, you're like, in a way, you're directly blaming them for like making a mistake, right? And so something that like someone like JT is like fucking phenomenal at, like I feel like I've never heard him blame a single person for anything. It's just that like, you just accept that like, yeah, a person fucked up, a person makes mistakes. You're able to accept that, you know, that's going to happen. And if you want your vision to truly like come together and you actually want, you know, things to work out in the long term, you need to be able to not like just blame people for that, especially mid game. That's something that like maybe like I think at times maybe Stu will kind of like struggle with, for example, is like he had the thing with like Fallen where he was like kind of blaming in mid game, and it's like, yeah, like you have like a point, like what you're saying is like correct that like Fallen fucked this up or like, you know, this person fucked this up, but it's like you're not actually gaining anything by like harping on them both in game and like even like out of game, you know. It's like if you like go and blame people too much, you are gonna like kind of they're gonna lose confidence in themselves. They're gonna like start overthinking things. And so if you can like relinquish that and you can just say, yeah, mistakes are gonna happen, people are gonna fuck up, and you don't like overthink it, you're just like, yeah, I said to do this instead of this, but it's fine, it's whatever, you know, it's, you know, and then, you know, you just move on and you just keep going. You're not like, you're just focusing on the mistakes that people make and then trying to fix them. You're not like blaming people for not executing like well enough.
That's one of the pretty key components in Bill Walsh's book. So yeah, just like what he said, like one of the things that is just, forgot the exact quote, but something like one of the things with the best return on investment is just positivity and just you know, throwing out
that's how I look at it. Yeah. Like, yeah, even if like you're right, I just feel like you don't actually get anything out of just like blaming someone for something, you know. It's, for me, it's just about what actually, like, how do people receive information best, and like how do, you know, how does it naturally just build up? And to me, that's just the most optimal way of doing things. And so if maybe Stewie could see it like kind of like that way, that like, yeah, like you're right, but it just doesn't, there's no point, like you're not actually gaining anything from it. Yeah. You just have to focus on what's like the most optimal way to actually get what you want. And most of the time, that's not going to be blaming someone.
Pretty solid, yeah. I'll quickly say that Dinko basically took the point that I was going to make, which was about leading men and being able to rally the troops and have some sort of leadership quality where you have the player buy-in. I would additionally add on to that generally having life experience beyond outside of esports to give you a better perspective on things, and that also just generally comes with age, is really going to be an asset, because most of the players, especially the star fraggers that you have, probably not going to be too old, probably not going to be too experienced. And even if they're, you know, in their 20s, mentally they're probably not the same as the age on their birth certificate. You know what I mean? Like, you're at this point, you're dealing with something that, you know, these people are just, they've all in straight on for a lot of this stuff. They've all in on gaming, and that's not something where you get a lot of life experience. So that sort of informs how well you lead men, in my opinion. But that would be the thing that I would say is, like, big ups to anybody who has that life experience. It's going to be a huge advantage for them, because they won't have to, you know, maybe they won't blame people as much because they've worked, you know, real life jobs and they know how to solve those problems without going into that, right? To Mix's point. And, you know, I think it's kind of a cheating answer, because if you just say get more experience forehead, then, you know, okay, well, it's not very useful, but you got to wait it out. Still, I think that's probably I don't know if it's the most underrated, but I would say it's an underrated thing, because a lot of people will say, oh, the star IGL from, you know, the academy team, he's looking kind of cool, or maybe they don't say academy team specifically, but they might pick a fragging IGL, or they might pick an IGL who with less time on the block. But there's a reason why I always put Glavin and Kerrigan over a lot of any newcomer IGLs, just because they have the experience and they can lead men. So,
all right, let's do shout outs. Let's close this one out. As you may know, Dinko, we do shout outs at the end of every single podcast. You can shout out any single thing you want. So yeah, the floor is yours. You want to shout out a project you're working on, anything, whatever it is.
I have to think. Yeah, I guess I'll shout out
You want-
Hulk. I mean,
okay.
he's put out a new YouTube video today. It's the first thing I can think of. I watched it before the show, so I think he's got some more interesting stuff planned. And since I don't really do the content side of things, you guys can go check his YouTube channel out. I think Maui's in the most recent video, so yeah, get more of Maui.
I like it because I'm in it. Okay, Mix, what's your shout out?
Shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars for just fucking this coaching shirts. Random NFL
Love that.
reference.
Love that. Okay. All right. No, what's yours?
I'll shout out Party Astronauts. They just put out a GoFundMe to boot camp in Europe. So they're playing in EPL later this year. So if you have the extra money, help them go pay for a little boot camp before they have to play in that event. It's 4 out of 5 of the players' first time in Europe or something. So
Wow.
they could definitely use that experience.
Do they know where they're going yet?
No, they need the money to boot camp in the first place.
Oh, okay.
That'll
So
probably
the
be
more
better.
money
They're
we
trying
give, the more first world the country.
Oh my god. Jeez.
It's like we have these like tier bonuses, certain donation they get to coach like
Dono goals. The Dono goals are like
it's like
third world.
France goal.
first, and then tier 1 goal is just like in the what? I don't know. I'm not
Taj
going to
Mahal.
give the preference.
I think it's because ESL pays for the boot camp for when the event is happening, like a day or two before to when the event ends. But they want a boot camp before that so that they actually get some practice time in. So that's what the whole setup is for.
Cool.
Okay.
Only I was rich.
Okay. That's a cool one. Cool one. Pronogo, what's your shout out?
I'll shout out Dinko for doing some casting mid show. That was pretty cool, and for
That was great.
for
That was the best
enduring the epic nature of this talk show. Congratulations, man! I hope you survived your hazing.
Yeah, it was great fun.
And then,
I really enjoyed it.
I got an extra shout out to 7Spud because you specifically requested one, so I have to give
He's
the
not even
people
a sub,
what they want.
dude. He's not even a patron.
He's not even a
Get
sub.
him out of here.
Not even a patron.
He's been here supporting.
Retract your
Right.
shout out right now.
You get one
even
free
contributed.
shout out, 7Spud. But if
And,
I don't see that badge, you're done.
I had another shout out, but I already forgot it because I have severe ADHD. So I guess
We only
Yeah.
shout out patrons from this point forward.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if you donate to the Party Astronauts, you get enough money to pay Jonesy's return flight, so he doesn't run into the problem we had the last time. he
Oh
was
my
in
God.
Europe, so.
Ooh,
Yeah.
true.
I'll do two quick shout outs. I'll do one is the Niners special teams, and the second one is Desby Frag for making me laugh at chat a couple times today. So Desby Frag, you get my shout out because you're
sorry.
funny.
My see, he's sub now. Let's fucking go. That's sick.
He's subbed. Shout out to Ethereal
Keep
for
it.
giving a sub to 7Spud.
Sorry,
Shout
my
out
other
both you
shout
guys.
out was going to be MiBR for beating Astralis.
And OC for
that-
coming number one.
Shout out
Okay.
NiKo for being second in the world this last year.
Shout out to NiKo for talking to me a lot at the relog boot camp.
Now we really know why Maui wanted
Okay.
him to be number 2.
Fanboy.
Shout out to relog. Shout out to Funspark.
It's
Shout
pretty
out to Replay.
disgusting that you could just be blatantly biased like that, Maui.
'Cause I wouldn't talk to me at that boot camp, so just saying. All right, I think that's it. Let's close the show there. Thanks, Dinko, for coming on.
Yeah, like,
Pleasure.